from the corner. And it rattles home.
Wow. Get a TO, baby.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First down pass attempt. Felt the pressure and went down. It was Bernard who affected him.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Abram Smith with a good run. Look at Abram Smith. They were pinned at their own 5 after the Mack Brown punt, and he weaves his way past midfield.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Off play action. Heineke going deep downfield, and interception number 11 for Trayvon Diggs.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Thursday. It got a little warmer around here, and I mean, it's unbelievable when you say it's warmer in the 50s in the state of Texas, but that's kind of where we are. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Colt Barber today in the premium section with a little update. Nothing yet official, but an update on where Baylor is on their timeline of hiring the new wide receivers coach and a couple of things that Dave Aranda has been working on. Also, there was in the text line, the area code 419, love the 419. Couple of interesting things today, guys. The AAC is working with Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston to have an exit strategy soon. Other conferences are looking not having divisions. After thinking about it, by the way, it maybe does make sense. One division champ unbeaten, the other has 2 losses. 2-loss team wins the championship. Really diminishes the chances of either getting into the college football playoff, and that's always been one of the problems, of course, even before there was the college football playoff. And so the exit strategy of the American wanting to move on, the Big 12 wanting to add, and eventually, of course, that will include both Texas and Oklahoma with whatever their future will be when they leave and depart for the SEC.
Look, I like the idea of no divisions. I like it. Rotate the schedule around, and kind of like Craig mentioned yesterday, the NFL has a pretty good schedule model that you get to pretty much, play everybody every 4 years or 5 years or so. You work your way through the league and, make sure you preserve the rivalries. And other than that, especially in this new Big 12, there's, the new teams aren't going to have any rivalries at all outside of the, what they maintain with their non-conference. So, why not do it that way? I mean, like, what would be the downside?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a perfect way.
I
don't think there's like a perfect way. I don't know. I don't get as into the divisions and things like that as other people seem to. It's not as of interest to me, how they break it down. Like I said yesterday, as long as the teams play each other on a regular basis, I really don't care how they line them up. Like, there's certain things, like maintain certain rivalries. Like, I don't think Baylor and TCU need to be in opposite divisions. I don't think if Texas and Oklahoma are a part of it, that they need to be in opposite divisions. I think those are very obvious. Cincinnati, West Virginia don't need to be in opposite divisions. Like if you're relatively close. Whatever rivalries you're trying to maintain those. But in terms they go northwest to southwest or north to south or east to west, I don't care. Like, just keep the pods together that you need to and then build around it that way. Call it whatever you want to, American and National or East and West or South and North. But yeah, I mean, I like that they're going to work on it, but and I like seeing the people who have the different ideas. I do. It's just not something that I sit and kind of think about like, man, what could the divisions look like? I just want to see teams play on a regular basis and avoid being A&M and you don't go to Athens until you've been in the SEC for like 10 years already. Yeah. I think that's just sort of silly.
You would think that would be easier to do and the algorithms and all of that.
But I think if you should play every one of these new 4 teams at their home place, within a reasonable amount of time, like within the first 8 years, or even sooner than that. If you can do, I guess you could do it sooner than that, actually. And, don't drag it out over a 10-year period where, TCU's first trip to Cincinnati is like 9 years down the road. That's really where my focus lies in terms of the divisions and the rest of it. However it falls, I think I'll probably be okay with it, so long as they maintain those things that I mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like with the college football playoff. It's kind of like with overtime. There are things that I think sometimes we probably want to like no or yes or this is great or no. I don't really know if there's a perfect thing for any of them.
We don't have to have a hot sports opinion on every single thing and have to have like this is the way it is, and if it's not this way, it's not, like, I think there's too much of that. And so like there's certain things that's just like, okay, cool. If they do it that way, cool. If they don't, then cool. But like show me a way. Now, if they were to, are you talking about scrapping divisions, period? If the Big 12 were to do that, or just the American does that? Are you asking
this was from the 419 that the American Conference is starting to kind of work with the others leaving with an exit strategy, but also it was just an opinion on him on what we've talked about before.
Well, I do agree.
Whether there should be divisions.
I do agree that sometimes divisions do get very boring because you get one division that's in a rut and they have one team that just sits there and kind of beats the mess out of the rest of the teams, and the other division's got like 4 teams that are all that level.
It's the SEC East or the erstwhile Big 12 North. I mean, the Big 12 North for a while was Nebraska. I mean, and Colorado would sneak up there sometimes and do that, and Nebraska, Kansas State, but it was really just Nebraska, and so I think that to me, like I think if you eliminate divisions, it gets out of this. The scheduling I don't like is where you don't play teams in your conference.
Yeah,
like we had the example yesterday of Indiana and Illinois don't play each other anymore, and the states border each other, for crying out loud. Like, let's make that happen more often. It doesn't have to be all the time. I get there's 14 teams, or some conferences are going to have 16 teams or whatever. You can't play everybody every year, but you could get closer than every 9.
It'd be impossible to. I guess in this new format with 14 teams, you're not going to worry as much about a rematch because you can't play everybody else. But I like the way it worked out in the Big 12 this year. I mean, I know it was a rematch, but that's what's going to happen, and that's what's happened with their 10-team slate. And I had no problem with the rematch. The rematch was pretty damn good for any hand-wringing about, they've already played before, and Oklahoma State already beat them. Well, that's why you play again and see what happens that second time around. And the divisions or the no divisions led to that. If you had divisions, you wouldn't have had that rematch most likely, or you wouldn't have had it because you had divisions, right? So unless they were on opposite sides, and then in theory it could have happened. But I think the no division thing is appealing as well because you get the actual top 2 teams. You don't get the top team in the North and the top team in the South, the top team in the East, you get the 2 top teams, and that does appeal to me, that no divisions, that you just get the 2 simply best teams no matter what.
Andy Staples today. Thanks to Rod Webb for sending this to me just now on the text line. 254-339-1122. Your thoughts about, and you don't have to have one, but your thoughts about what and how do you lean one way or the other when it comes to divisions? There was a story 2 or 3 weeks ago that got some chatter, CBS Sports, on how the Big 12 might be formed as far as divisions, and we had a lot of those at least scenarios back when everything got to the expansion stage in sometime in September. But it seems like with the Big Ten, what they're thinking, among others, you never know. He's kind of, again, one of the things that divisions created, why they were created, because conferences grew. You had 12, you had 14, or you had how many others without any doubt. And one of the things about wanting a conference championship game is that you had to have a certain amount of teams. And then if you didn't, you have to get a waiver. And so you want the championship game, which I don't know if I'm a fan of those or not, but if I was the one getting part of the money, I sure would be. And that's what they do. They provide money with the championship games with ESPN and whoever else carries them.
That's the other thing I've seen people debating on the value of the conference championship game and whether they're even worth having in some cases, and as it comes to the college football playoff as well, like risking that team getting knocked out. We've been talking about that for years, though. The team that has a chance, like a K-State back in the day, but they play in a Big 12 title game and get knocked out. And, did that help or hurt the conference ultimately, that their best bet for a championship got knocked out in a conference championship game? So I'm sure that debate will continue as well. I don't think I'm for eliminating conference championship games. If you're going to do that, you'd have to give me a better playoff.
Well, and look, if you're going to go to 12 and you're worried about your best team getting knocked out, the point of going to 12 is variety. So your best team getting knocked out is certainly variety.
Yeah.
So it certainly adds that. So that adds.
Well, that can happen. Even divisions are not right.
Yeah. So, but I mean that. Like I don't think that the 12-team playoff should be about protectionism of the top. I think that's what we've been doing now. So the 12-team playoff should be about everybody's best chance to get in the playoff. And if the number 2 team in the country messes around and gets knocked off in the championship game and has a rough patch at the end of the season, well, yeah, maybe one of the best teams is sitting home, but boo-hoo. We have 12-team playoffs. We're going to have a playoff. It doesn't matter. Just using the NFL by comparison, the top seeds in the NFC are all gone, right? Does that make Sunday worse? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. No. And the idea that it does somehow...
Well, who are the best teams in the NFL prior to last weekend? Who do we think were the top 3 or 4 teams?
Well, yeah, we have the Packers and, the Chiefs.
1 and 2 seeds both lost.
Yeah, the Packers and Bucks are both out, so the top 3 seeds in the NFC are out, the Packers, Bucks, and Cowboys.
Yeah, no.
Does that make it worse? No.
And the NFL thrives off of that.
Yeah.
It thrives off the Giants getting hot at the end of the year, getting to the playoffs, knocking off the number 1 seed Cowboys, who had played them twice in, 2007? And they go on to beat the Patriots, the unbeaten Patriots in the Super Bowl. That's kind of not a Cinderella March Madness, but it's somewhat. You have one, but like the 49ers are a red-hot team.
But it still could be a 4 seed getting to the Final Four.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we love that in college basketball, but the idea of it in college football for a lot of people is like, oh, but then it'd be bad. Is it? No, it's not.
Happy day today, Thursday, to all of you, ladies, gentlemen, and bots. We appreciate you being a part of the chat room as well, YouTube channel 365. And we have a young homie here, Paul and Craig. Emery is here from Oklahoma City. He is here, and I don't know what. He must have been someone that
had too much fun on Bricktown and wandered down here.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
No, he told us, he said before, he really is a big fan of Sikkim 365. He filled out the application, which we put online for people who want to be interns. And, he fits. Can we get a camera on Emery, or can we do that?
Is that, so soon we're going to give him the spotlight?
I just want to point out that
this is how people get big-headed. This is like
one of the things that we required was that they look like a 1970s cop. And Emery was the only one, so some people are going to grow mustaches right now. There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
Like right now,
TV debut.
You look like you're 33 years old. How old are you, Emery? 22?
Yeah. See, like right now, there's a captain pissed off at him for his hijinks.
Got a hair and all that. What the hell? that's human beings that are young. It's a great thing. Oh, and a couple of you on the chat room, by the way, were mentioning about Dave Aranda. You used the word resigning, but some of you are looking at that word as resigning. No, resigning, the new contract and all that, the timing of it. We've heard from Mac Rhodes. Whatever it might be, they've lost Chancey Stuckey. Powledge is at Oregon. Joey McGuire left during the season. But for the most part, they have kept everybody else together. And part of the deal with Dave Aranda, a lot of it is that he wants his assistant coaches taken care of. And so I wanted to clarify resigning and resigning, because that can be something that it gets a little bit confusing.
Yeah, we wouldn't be talking about the playoff and divisions if that were the case. I think we'd be talking about that pretty much right out of the gates. But I've made that mistake before too, tweeting something out, and then somebody's like, "What?" And then you have to explain it all. But no, yeah.
And that comes from Marshall. Do y'all think the timing of Aranda resigning has to do with what jobs his assistants might get offered and allowing Baylor to match these potential offers? I don't know if they ever matched anything. I just know that Aranda has told Mac Rhodes and told everyone else that he wanted to take care of his assistant, and part of his own perks, even though he's going to have a new deal, part of the perks, a lot of them for him are going to be donor related. As far as you raise money to take care of some of the perks, and then some of the other stuff can go towards you with your budget, what you do with your assistant coaches and staff.
The assistant coach deal is big because you don't want to lose a coach just because of money. There's a lot of times coaches leave and go like, well, I'd maybe rather stay with this guy, but they're going to pay me $250,000 more at this school, and the other one's not going to budge, so you kind of got to go.
Well, it depends on what level of a coach you are.
But like if
you're making $1.25 million as an offensive coordinator, or $2 million now, and you're offered $2.25 million, is that worth going unless it's somewhere where you feel like that is a better place?
No, I think, though, but like to go position coach to position coach.
If
like
you're going $500,000, $600,000, you're going to get offered $900,000.
It's not even necessarily about keeping people. It's also about attracting people.
I agree.
So that when your wide receivers coach leaves to go be the offensive coordinator because you're keeping your offensive coordinator, he goes to be an offensive coordinator somewhere else, then you get wide receivers coaches like, oh, that guy made good money. I want that job. So it's about making the program attractive as a whole to not just players but coaches.
All right, 254-339-1122. That is the number. There are, by the way, Shaka Smart and Marquette. Shaka Smart and Marquette has won 7 straight, beat Seton Hall. 4 of their 7 consecutive wins are against ranked teams. He has a team that is playing the way he used to have a team at Virginia Commonwealth, and for whatever reason, even though they had some success on occasion, not enough that he had at the University of Texas. And he's having this run. They've won 7 straight. And Shaka Smart's playing the way he wants to play the game.
Well, that's what he should have done at Texas. They'd have been much more successful if he had coached what he was comfortable coaching. But he got in his head that I have to run the press at VCU because this is how I can beat teams that are
underdog guys.
Yeah, this is how I can beat teams that are above us. As opposed to looking at it like Nolan Richardson did with 40 Minutes of Hell when it was, that team, Arkansas team that won the national championship was second to no one in talent. So you had the talent and you make talent like you have a press the whole time of those kind of players. How bad are you going to beat people if that is what you do? He just thought he didn't have to do it for whatever reason. And then, it got in his own head. No, coach what you can coach. Look, if I hired Emory Ballard in 1979 to come to my school and he goes, well, I don't have to run the wishbone here. I didn't hire you not to run the wishbone, dude.
We're going to get, yeah. And so you when you hire a coach, you hire perhaps his resume and what he's done, recruiting, all of that as well, what he can be as far as with those who are a part of the major donors of your, but you hire him to win damn games and run the style that he's comfortable with. And like, for example, Dave Aranda, after year 1, didn't like the way the offense went. Nobody did. And speaking of that, there's a note about Larry Fedora we'll have here in a moment. And so he hired Jeff Grimes to come in. Grimes also had the offensive lineman who was with him at Brigham Young and Eric Mateos. They completely changed their running style, which didn't work the year before and really hadn't worked in a while. And look what they did. They created momentum. They created confidence in the offensive lineman. And so if you're going to bring Jeff Grimes into your football team, you're bringing that certain style in, that reliable, violent offense. And, of course, the wide zone as well. All right, now, some notes. Larry Fedora, is this on? Okay, well, we'll have a note with Craig on Off the Radar. Now.
You asked me about 2 other stories, and that wasn't one of them.
Okay, I know. that came in at the last. Okay, Dan Quinn, Cowboys. Named the assistant coach of the year in the NFL. Not a surprise. Mike Vrabel, coach of the year. Bill Belichick, executive of the year. Did a hell of a job. Turned him around. Now, Dan Quinn and his defense created 34 takeaways and 6 defensive touchdowns, all the stats. And what's interesting is today we find out he's coming back. He'll remain with the Cowboys. Now, Paul, let's be honest. He interviewed. Denver picked somebody else. Chicago's going to look at somebody else. And then all of a sudden, Dan Quinn telling teams he's staying put. Which came first?
I think he wanted. I think when you go in, you kind of have one job that you have your eyes set on, and if your thing made him go, well, I'm just going to go back to Dallas because he clearly didn't want to go to Jacksonville.
What's the Denver thing?
Eberflus?
No. Denver hired Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Hackett. Chicago hired Matt Eberflus, former Cowboys assistant that they loved.
Eberflus, yeah.
But when Rod Marinelli was going to be the DC there for the foreseeable future, he went and took the DC job, and Indianapolis has done a great job there. So I'm curious to see how he does in Chicago. This is the first time they've had a quarterback they can be excited about, but it's all going to be about who he brings in as the coordinator as well.
All right. Paula mentioned, by the way, one of the perks of Coach Aranda, well, he's getting material input on how the new football operations center will be built, designed, et cetera, and no question about that. He is one of those that even though he is focused on X's and O's in his football team, and then there's recruiting, talent, personnel, whatever, and whatever they do X's and O's, his hands are in so much more. Because of how much trust they have, Baylor, in him, and also he wants to be a part of some of the new toys that they have that are being built here over the next several months and even years.
All right, back to Dan Quinn. That's a big damn deal.
Yeah.
That's a big damn deal that he's coming back to Dallas. I don't get that other than what you said, Paul, is the other jobs got filled that he wanted and he doesn't want any of the rest, which really, that bodes well for the NFL when there's 9 open jobs and there's only 2 that one guy finds appealing, and I'm sure he's not the only one that feels that way. I'm sure people are just scrambling to get those other jobs.
I think the Giants are going to have a hard time filling their job with people who may be their first, because they just fired 2 head coaches in a row without very long. Look, John Mara said it yesterday about they're going to keep Daniel Jones because he thinks, and he's very right here, they've done everything they can to make him fail. Offensive coordinator changes, offensive line coach changes, head coach changes this whole time that he's been there. So if you're Dan Quinn, I know you interviewed with the Giants, but wouldn't you rather just stay with Dallas and wait if you might have options?
There are 32 of these in the world.
Yeah, I know, and he's had one of them and got him to the Super Bowl, and he knows how it ends. So it's if you've got some choice and have your own kind of agency in this, and look, I'm sure Jerry Jones told him, like, look, you go out and be a head coach, but if you come back,
you'll have a new deal.
And my there's gold at the end of that rainbow.
He's been there 1 year. Now, it's kind of like a football player or someone like that. A coach gets should Dan Quinn get a bump?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
was the defense better?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
wasn't he then being attracted by other jobs?
You're one, though, that also sometimes wonders about when you extend these contracts of coaches because they've had one good year.
But he's the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, he's the DC in the NFL.
He's not going anywhere.
Well, now he's not.
Could.
Yeah.
But he could. I mean,
okay, if he called up and he said, hey, Jerry, I'm interested in coming back because I'm not interested in these other jobs, but I can take these, entice me to come back. I mean, and Jerry says, well, we'll give you a lot more money and we'll do, okay, cool, I'll come back. I mean, you got to get a little something. He's not just going to do head coaching interviews and then just come right back and then everything's the exact same that it was.
We don't know the conversation, but I'm sure Jerry said, we'll take care of you if you don't go.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's getting more money. I mean, there's got to be some reason for it. So, yeah, I'm sure if Jerry and him had some type of conversation, we're like, hey, if you stick around, we'll make it worth your while. Well, it seems pretty simple.
He had the best season that a defensive coordinator has had in Dallas since maybe 1996. So, honestly, I mean, their defense for over 20 years has been outside of little blips. Wade Phillips had a nice year, little blips.
Well, but what is 1 year?
Yeah, but so what I'm saying is now they actually look, if you have forward motion on defense, when you have Micah Parsons and you have these things, they didn't have that before. They did with DeMarcus Ware maybe, but they have some actual, forward motion on defense, and why not coach the best young player in football for at least one more year?
Yeah, no, that might have had something to do with his decision. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs, the year he had.
I do think it's weird. I think it's weird to have all these open coaching jobs and not want to go take one of these coaching jobs if that's ultimately what you're trying to do. I think that is strange, and it makes me wonder if he's just really smart and goes, okay, these places just they're too toxic, and I'm going to wait maybe for the Cowboys job. Because who knows, that might be open in a year if they go and they do the same thing over again. I'm sure that had to enter in his brain somewhere. But yeah, he's either doesn't think those jobs are good enough, or I don't know. I don't know what he's not wanting to do. Where the DC job in Dallas is more appealing than the head coaching job.
He might have even offered some of them.
That's true.
He might have been offered some of them. But I think about this. He's also someone who worked for an owner that everybody likes, and Arthur Blank in Atlanta, and that guy fired him. So he's probably got a little more keen eye to owners than some guys do.
So you think Denver turned him down before he said he's
I don't know. That I don't know.
And it doesn't matter.
Here's why I think Denver hired Nathaniel Hackett.
Matter.
I think Denver hired Nathaniel Hackett because that gives them the best chance to get Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And Dan Quinn doesn't do that. If you want Aaron Rodgers, and maybe even Devontae Adams, heck, if you could make that happen, if you could get Nathaniel Hackett there, then that maybe makes that happen because Aaron Rodgers likes Nathaniel Hackett. It may or may not happen, but at least you're moving forward with an offensive-minded head coach, and you've got talent on offense outside of the quarterback position.
Yeah, so that was Dan Quinn obviously did an incredible job. The Cowboys' offense at times dynamic, and then they kind of flatlined the last few games even with some games they ran it up against bad people that maybe gave some false hope.
No excuses
no
next
question.
year.
They have not been, Paul, you're right. You had not been a team that off on a blip here and a blip there, a team that forced turnovers. They forced 34. It became contagious. I've always thought of that as being contagious. You get 3 turnovers in game one. Rarely do you go like 5 games without getting another one, or even without having another chunk of them.
And the other thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if before he went, Jerry said, the pot will be sweeter if you come back, because he does have. Not only does he have Micah Parsons, but he has Trayvon Diggs, and he's got DeMarcus Lawrence, a guy he's invested a ton of money in, and they're about to invest a ton of money in Randy Gregory. So on that side of the ball, he's going to want some continuity. My top 5 is about Dan Quinn today, but if he says, look, we want you to come back, and if you're Jerry Jones, I'd rather have Dan Quinn back than not.
You might not have DeMarcus Lawrence, but you're going to have possibly both he and Gregory, as you mentioned, because of just the fact that they have Lawrence under contract, and most likely it's going to be Gregory as well. So that's something that's going on. Craig will have more about the USFL in 4:45. Last night, late, real quick. No, oh, by the way, Ben Roethlisberger. I know, Paul, you hate him. 18 years in the NFL, won, 2 Super Bowls, put up huge numbers over his career. He put up a video earlier. If you hadn't seen it, go to his Twitter account. A kind of a say goodbye. 18 years in the same organization, which is, I like that.
I do too.
And that's Pittsburgh Steelers alphabet soup, right? That doesn't mean they don't leave, they do, but that's of an organization where stability, even if they have not been quite as successful, that's who they are.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if that head coaching job ever comes open and somebody wants to interview me for it, I'm taking it, because I know I'm going to be there for a decade.
You could. You're right.
Yeah, he had a great career. I mean, gosh, accomplished a lot. I know people will have an asterisk next to his name for forever, but that aside, I mean, just as a pure football player, very good, very bad at times too, very frustrating, but very much a guy who exceeded expectations that people had. You know, I know he got hot, when the draft rolled around, and, this kid out of Miami, Ohio, and big arm and all that kind of jazz. But, the last, would you say 16 years, 18 years in the league? I don't know if anybody thought that, when his career started.
I got to admit something.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I have to admit something. It's when Big Ben was up in the draft, Miami, Ohio, I'd seen him play a little bit. And when Pittsburgh took him, I said, man, that's just a bad choice.
Yeah, well.
How many teams, if you went down the rest of the 31, kind of like the Packers, Favre and Rodgers, and only have a Super Bowl each, which is still a more Super Bowl than most everybody else. How many quarterbacks do you think, if they did a stat or a research, have other teams had across the board while Pittsburgh's had Roethlisberger, and the only time he didn't play was because he was injured? And I think, did he ever get suspended for that incident? Okay, all right, but I mean, hundreds, maybe hundreds.
Was it 2004 was his NFL draft?
18, I'm not sure. But wouldn't that be interesting? And he didn't play quarterback. Here's a note from the 419. Yes. I did not know this. He did not play quarterback until he was a senior in high school.
Yeah. So, look, that was a really good
right?
That was a really good draft at the top for quarterbacks. Eli and Phillip Rivers played in the league for a long time. That's 3 Hall of Famers in the first 11 picks. Hold on. Here's in the first 11 picks of that draft are Eli Manning, who'll be a Hall of Famer, and he'll be argued about, but
he'll be argued about, but he played in New York and he won 2 Super Bowls.
Larry Fitzgerald is a surefire Hall of Famer. Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's a stat producer. He's kind of like there's certain.
And he won a lot. He just didn't win a Super Bowl. Sean Taylor would have been. And then Ben Roethlisberger, who's a Hall of Famer. All in that in the first 11 picks.
Sean Taylor. Oh, God. I'll never forget that day.
Yeah. Vince Wilfork is in that draft as well. He's going to be somebody that they debate, but I think he should be a Hall of Famer. So, yeah, that's a pretty good little first round there.
He won a bunch of championships, right, Wilfork? Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Last night, late note, and then we take a break. Lady Bears in Lubbock, 88-80 in overtime. Not overtime, 88-80 to beat Texas Tech. They were up big, then they just, as even Nikki Collins said, they just stopped playing defense. She was pretty upset about it. She said it in the post-game interview, but a nice win for them as they've now won 4 straight after the 0-2 start in conference play.
Yeah, a lot of Baylor fans upset about that. a certain small segment of them, but using Baylor fans was probably a little loose term as well in that regard. But 4 straight wins for Nikki Collin, and I think that's great. You know, I'm not getting too ahead of my skis here and thinking like, oh, here they're going to go win the Big 12 or anything like that. It's a long way to go, but I mean, considering where they were about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, considering that they've won 4 straight games since one of their players on an already thin roster announced that she was leaving. They've just won every game since then, I think is, a good sign for them that they've got the right core maybe now of like just the buy-in and the culture starting to build a little bit and kind of just finding their groove. So, I think with the Big 12 women's race being what it is, where it's a lot more.
One of those quarterbacks, was it Ben Roethlisberger or was it another quarterback that got hit low, was injured?
Palmer.
Carson Palmer that created that.
Steelers.
Well, you cannot.
But it was against the Steelers. Okay. By the way, Biscuits and Gravy says, what? Paul hates Ben. Yes, I did, in fact, where we were watching the Super Bowl in Dallas when they lost to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers was right by the Steelers locker room. I might have excitedly run out of the media area so that I could see Ben cry after they lost. I might have done that. There might be 100
Not
witnesses.
sure you needed to admit that. I don't think that was
Craig was there. He saw me do it.
I don't think that's something you needed to admit.
But, yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan. Look, I'm not a Steeler. I'm a Cowboys fan, so the Steelers, in general, is just kind of an old rival. But I would never care for Ben Roethlisberger. I just kind of thought he was, I didn't think he was a good guy, so.
In football terms, and that's how the Hall of Fame is voted on. He was a hell of a
first
player.
ballot Hall of Famer.
Compiled a lot of stats and won a couple of Super Bowls. And the throw to, was it Brown? Well, who was caught the pass in the corner of the end zone? Right,
it was Santonio Holmes.
Santonio Holmes. It was amazing as well. All right, 254-339-1122. We will open the phone lines here in this next segment. 254-339-1122. So what is your opinion about conference football in the college football? The thought now that this is kind of like, it seemed like it's just kind of happened overnight, that there might be more conferences in the future with no divisions. And really, is there a best way? 254-339-1122. Not so much how you would set up the Big 12 once they've added the new 4 schools and whether or not Texas and Oklahoma are still a part of it or whatever. The pods in the East and the West in geography. Do you think the college football conferences should seriously think about the non-division look and just straight up have your schedule? 254-339-1122, SICM, 365 Radio. Earlier today, I was talking to a guy that's a part of construction, and I asked him, I said, hey, how much do you use Pioneer Steel and Pipe? And, of course, he builds homes. He said, oh, yeah, you want to be a part of what they do because they have incredible customer service and a phenomenal product as well. And he mentioned the new location, the building that they're putting up right now that will make them bigger, better, faster, stronger, better distribution, more product and efficiency as well. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. I said, can you imagine a business that's been in business since 1943 with all the changes we've seen? And just recently in the last year or two, and he's like, yeah, that says quite a bit because a lot of times the bigger stores eat the local stores. But Pioneer Steel and Pipe, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan, they keep thriving. And again, that new building, when it's available, will make and help their distribution with more product available for you and better efficiency and distribution. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, since 1943, pioneerboys.com.
Kick off your new year with the Start Something New sales event. The 2021 Chrysler 300 has total values of $4,000 or 0% for 72 months and $2,000 in bonus cash. And the new 2021 Dodge Charger gets 0% for 72 months. For all first responders, get an extra $500. Shop for power, performance, style, and reliability today from Allen Samuels in Waco with the Start Something New sales event.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, here we go. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, 338. Big 12, by the way, released their baseball preseason rankings. Texas has a ton of players back, highly rated. 8 of the 9 first-place votes. Baylor 5th, Oklahoma State, Tech, TCU at 2, 3, and 4. So that's coming up. Baseball season just around the corner. At least there'll be baseball at the college and high school level.
Yeah, good to have baseball back, although it's not the most popular thing to discuss right now, or, the most beloved sport at the moment because of the Hall of Fame outcry. But that don't have anything to do with these guys, obviously. And, yeah, Texas is expected to have a very good team, if not, a favorite for the national championship. I know the SEC's hot and heavy right now in baseball. Last couple years, really, seeing teams like Mississippi State and the crowds they're pulling, A&M, et cetera. It's been fun to watch that. But, Texas is the overwhelming favorite, and they weren't, the champions at the end of it. I think that would be a huge shock, but you got to play the game, so we'll see.
And we'll have insight to Baylor baseball because Jared McKenzie, Jack's brother, outfielder, preseason All-Big 12 baseball team, was voted on, that came out yesterday. And so Jack will have some NIL money for his brother that will help dice that up as well. Let's see here. Oh, beer cans and baddies. Number 1, Georgia. Nobody can beat the mighty Bulldogs. You're right. I mean, other than the one game against Alabama, but it's celebrated. Did you ever feel when your favorite team, whatever, in mine it's been a quarter of a century since any of them even sniffed, or not quite that, close. It has been a quarter of a century. When you win a championship, whether it's been a search like Georgia since 1980 or one that you kind of rattled off a few, was there ever the feeling as a fan that you felt like pressure mounted and you didn't enjoy it enough?
No.
I don't enjoy the subsequent seasons. Like what happens after.
That's what he's
talking about.
Oh, I thought you thought the season.
No.
No, absolutely. No, yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah. And again, I've said this many times on whatever show we're on. Any season that my team does not show me a shiny trophy, I consider an abject failure.
I know you do.
So, yes, I don't enjoy the seasons that they don't win because I've tasted it. I've eaten the tomahawk ribeye, the wagyu, whatever, the fancy steak, the Kobe beef.
Well, that's
I don't want to.
That's a little bit of a elitist look. But that's who you are.
I don't want to be. Look,
let me tell you something. I just like to see a playoff.
I've had Kobe beef. I'm not eating hamburger helper.
My question was, did you immediately start feeling like this in like almost anxiety after your team? Craig, you say no.
No, I mean, why would I get anxiety over that? You know what I mean? Like, what is the point of my anxiety over my team in the next year? Like, what does that do? Does that help the team? Does that hurt? The team doesn't know how I'm feeling, first of all, anyway. So my feelings don't matter in the slightest as far as their performance goes. And why am I going to stress myself out over that? If you're a Georgia fan, celebrate the S out of this championship for the next several months. Like I'm sure you guys will and have and will continue to do. And then, next year, like, look, they'll have a target on their back, but I'd rather have the target on my back because I just want a title than be the team that hadn't won it in 35 years or 40 years or 45 years. That's what Georgia had to hear about for the last 40 years or whatever it's been. What was it, 1981 was their title?
Yeah.
And so, 1980. So then it was, 41 years?
Uh-huh.
So for 41 years, they've been hearing how they fell short.
Yep.
Or they weren't even close. And so now you mean to tell me that it's a bad thing that, like, oh, well, now the target's on your back because you actually want it? Hell no, man. Bro, like, that's what you've been wanting. That's what you wanted the whole time.
This. I wish I would have. I think I enjoyed all of them. But I wish I would have enjoyed them maybe a little bit more.
I think I enjoyed them.
I never thought they would just completely dry up for a quarter of a century.
I think I enjoyed them the proper amount, but I'm not going to wax rhapsodic about a season where the team wins a division title if you're the Cowboys or whatever. Like, I'm not going to, like, fine, that season was over. I had fun watching the games that were good. It's over, though. I'm not going to be like, oh, man, that one year where this guy had 3 interceptions in a game, that was great. Who cares?
No.
Did they win? No. Let him move on.
The unfun part comes with the people that do all of a sudden have like this, it's got to be this now or nothing less. And that's when you start to not have fun because it's now championship or bust every single time. It's like Alabama fans. Like if they don't win a national title, the thing that's the hardest to win, it's like the season was a bust. You know what I mean? And you could still have fun. I'm sure there are plenty of Alabama fans who, because they've been up and down enough as far as like being the team and then being the second or third team that they kind of know the deal at this point and can probably enjoy 10-plus win seasons even if you fall short. But still, ultimately, it's about national championships. And you know damn well if Saban were to, like, let's say lose like 3 of them in a row, there would be somebody out there going, well, I don't know if he can do it anymore. Yeah. I don't know if he can get over that hump.
He's kind of ruined everything.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But, if you're a Georgia fan, ain't no way you should be stressing out about next year or worried about pressure, expectations, because you got the monkey off your back, man. That's the most important thing. I'd much rather have that pressure than it's been 42 years and Kirby Smart can't beat his old mentor and, all that stuff we heard for the last, several years. Throw that out the window, drive right past it, and never think about it again because you did all that. And now, you got to defend it. And, there's a pressure that comes with that, but I'll take that pressure over the other kind any day.
Paul, which of Red Sox finally winning or Florida State finally winning, which one was the most emotional?
Well, Florida State won when I was 13, so they'd won in my lifetime, and even though I was younger than.
Which one?
Oh, Red Sox. I'm running around the place I worked because I was running up and downstairs to watch the last out, running around a bookstore after closing time.
Yeah.
With a bunch of gay dudes and Wiccans that were there that had no idea what I was yelling about.
Gay dudes and who?
Wiccans, people who practice witchcraft. That's who works at bookstores.
Okay.
So that's who was on the shift that night was people who didn't like baseball, and I'm running this is unbelievable, and they're oh yeah.
Well, I experienced one very young with Nebraska, 2 of them back to back, and I was 11 10 or 11, 12 years old. And then the one with Washington when they beat the Dolphins to win the Super Bowl, that one was something I never thought I would see happen. So because it had been so long and they'd been close a few times, but not. It's everybody has their weight. Like Oklahoma with Bob Stoops, his second year won the national title, and they have been close and in the picture 12 of the last 20 years, but it's now been 21 years since they won a national title. They've knocked on the door. I'd rather be that than not. But it's amazing how when they won it and how close they have been, and it almost is backwards. Usually Bobby Bowden or Tom Osborne or others, you wait forever and ever, then you finally knock on the door and win one.
Yeah, that's what probably hurt Stoops in the long run was just, and then again, like if he didn't win that early one, then he never wins one. So, yeah. I'd rather get it out of the way and then have that pressure of hey, you did it in year 2. Why can't you do it in year 10 and 12 and 14 and 16? And, they had plenty. That's on nobody but Oklahoma. They had their opportunities. They had a handful of opportunities to win national championships with Stoops and Riley over the last few years and came up short in every single one of those games. Every single one of them. Well, you had USC, you had LSU, you had, a couple playoff appeaplances.
The semifinal game with Georgia.
Yeah.
Remember that?
That's what I mean. A couple playoff appearances, and you had they had a chance to go win like 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 4, and LSU shocked them, and then they had the whole greatest team of all time build up the following year, and the big, to do with USC, and USC rocked them, and they've been there again since then, and they just can't get it done. They just can't get over that hump.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard. So, thankfully for Stoops, he won one so early because he wouldn't have one otherwise, and no matter how many times he had a crack at it, and that's going to be interesting. Like, can Riley get over that hump at USC since he couldn't do it at Oklahoma? That's going to be that's why they hired him, was to get it done there, and it's a very hard thing to do. That's why Saban's the GOAT, is that he's been able to do it time and time again. And
go ahead. No.
Go ahead.
No. You think about USC. It has now been for them 16 years, right? They had that great run where they were going to win 3 in a row for the first time. Vince Young and Texas interrupt that. So even USC, it's been 16 years since they won it. 21 years for Oklahoma, and Lord knows for everybody else. All right, when we come back, the line open, 254-339-1122. Stephen Snook, call and tell us that story about your emotions of being the fan you are and watching year after year after year your teams not be able to get it done. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. If you like cigars, Don Humidor in Waco in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills is where you should go, because they have a 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded up with great names around the world, brands of cigars. Rocky Patel, Arturo Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, Macanudo, Ashton, Padron. They have some that are kind of the up-and-coming smokes. But by the way, Ashley, Cheyenne, and also Carol will let you know about if you ask them. And there's some that are, again, they've got cigars. I don't even know the names of them because it's stacked. 48-foot walk-in humidor stacked with boxes and boxes and boxes of cigar. My father, or if you want what you need, you got them, whether they're Churchill length or smaller. Also, CBD products, Vita Dreams, to help you fall asleep at night. And on top of that, if you smoke pipes, they have pipes and the tobacco as well, plus fresh coffee beans. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Payments for qualified buyers only at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details. It's New Year, New Ride time at Richard Carr. New Year pre-owned deals like a 2017 Dodge Challenger for $272 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $422 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $227 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal. Find your next car or truck at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, here we go. We are loaded up. Our 4 o'clock hour is packed with Max Olson, a writer who covers Alabama men's basketball, Mickey Spagnola, Craig's off the radar, and Paul closes everything out in about 2 hours with the top 5. 254-339-1122 to the calls. Brought to you by BetUS.
Yes, by request, Stephen Snook of Findlay, Ohio, Ben Roethlisberger's hometown, on the BetUS caller line. Thanks, Stephen.
Hi, guys. Great show as always. David requested that I call in and talk about my lack of championship anxiety.
Man, no kidding.
When you're a Browns fan and you see Elway in old Cleveland Municipal Stadium with the drive that beat the Browns to keep them from going to the Super Bowl, let alone the Browns ever being in a Super Bowl, there's no anxiety there other than you hate John Elway.
Oh, and Ernest Biner's fumble too, right? Was that the next?
Ernest Biner's fumble?
Oh,
yeah. And Ernest Biner's fumble. And then, you know, as an Indians fan, you hate every Chicago Cubs player that ever played that season. Because,
God, that's the double whammy of fandom right there. Browns and Indians.
Yeah. Just because of what happened in that World Series. Now, I didn't have a chance against the Braves much that World Series. that was the first World Series of my lifetime, and you guys got to know how old I am, watching the Indians, and it's going to be tough to beat Maddox and Smoltz, so I kind of took that one. All right, that was going to be tough to beat those guys, but then you play the Marlins, and Jose Mesa has about 10 meltdowns, and so I really don't have any championship anxieties because I've never got to experience one.
Well, and you're in your 60s, so Otto Graham and the NFL championships predates you.
Yes.
Yeah, right before you.
I mean, my dad would just tell me about Bob Feller and all these guys. Well, I got to watch guys like, oh God, we'd be here till midnight if I gave you all the names that I got to watch who I probably could have played the position better than they did. But anyhow.
Man. Yeah. Stephen, thanks for sharing that. It makes me complaining about a team that I like, that both, all of them. Rangers have never won it. In 24 years now for me, and you have gone a lifetime. Horrible. That's a horrible stretch. Yeah. I know we got to take a break. There's also a text line comment about Oklahoma and the SEC. We'll get to that in the 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock hour, and we'll open the lines back up as well.
Yeah, I didn't get to ask if he's a Cavs fan, so at least you got LeBron got you one ultimately. But no. I mean, if you're a Browns and Indians fan, that's been, or I guess Guardians.
Yes.
That's been a struggle. Yeah, so you complain about. Oh, we won one, and now, we got a pressure to win another one. And it's like, Browns fans can we get there? That'd be nice for Bills fans.
For Cleveland,
can we win one?
For Cleveland as a city to get a championship, the best player of an era, one of the best of all time, had to go there, leave, and come back.
Yeah. And then leave again. And thankfully, I mean, I'm glad that he ultimately did that, and did get them one when all was said and done. But yeah, thanks for the perspective, because there's certain fans of certain cities out there, they've just never. I mean, I'd rather be the guy who, my team hadn't won in 20 years than my team's never even sniffed the championship game. And I know that's not what he was saying, but, I'd rather be a fan whose team won 20 years ago than be one who's just never won one. You never get to see it, or who's never even sniffed it. So, there's a lot of teams and a lot of fan bases like that that have just never even had the chance to experience that joy or even come close to what that joy is like.
We are about to have Super Bowl 56. And there are still a handful of teams that have never been in any of those 56 games. That's got to be tough. All right, when we come back, rapid fire, a bunch of different segments, including we have Max Olson, the transfer portal king, his thoughts, theathletic.com, then an Alabama men's basketball writer will join us, among more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. They deliver, and Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marcos.com. Always some special. You go on to Marcos.com and order what you want, and they always have some special. We tried this a couple of weeks ago. It's real good. A pepperoni magnifico. Enjoy a large for $9.99. Use the code PEPMAG. App, or you can order online or use the app as well. Unlimited large 2-topping pizzas, $8.99 each. You can order by using the code HOT2GO. Unlimited medium 1-topping pizzas, $7.99 each. And of course, there's much more, including downloading their app, and getting 25% off your first menu price order. Think about that. Pizza is just a tap away. Catering to your crowd if you want it, whether it's drinks, kind of the garlic sticks, pizza, sandwiches, wings, and salad. And you can get that as well. Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it, with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, Woodway, Robinson, and in China Spring.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh-baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Sports bettors, it is that fantastic time of year. The NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl, college basketball, the NBA, all of that coming up right now, and with great action at BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader. And right now, for just $50, you can get in with our promo codes, SICK'EM125 for a 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'EM200, that's a 200% bonus on crypto. So go to BetUS.com today. $50 gets you a 125% bonus on cash or 200% on crypto with our promo codes, SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200. That's at BetUS.com.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
This is Brown right here. Stops, scoops it up and in. Wow!
Oh my God!
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
I remember back during last season when I asked Dave Aranda about what did he think if there were differences among the SEC and their defenses that he, of course, coached when he was at LSU, compared to what right now the Big 12 is trying to do. And he did mention that the differences are what is that linemen in the Big 12 are more schemed. Some of the linemen in the SEC, you just let them go. Just go. Go do your thing. And Max Olson joins us, theathletic.com, and I bring this up because Auburn, what a note you just had a few hours ago, Max, that Auburn has now had 13 scholarship defensive linemen enter the transfer portal in the last 20-something days?
No,
since the last year.
January of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So since they had their coaching change. But there's been, I think 8 of those guys since the season ended at Auburn. Yeah.
That's attrition. That would be
not
considered.
great. That's not great. I think that when you're building an SEC program, it's good to have defensive linemen, just generally speaking, and bad when you don't. And that's one of those. it's kind of a curious deal. I mean, they had some guys leave last offseason and go to places like Florida, go to some good places, and they kind of lost a lot of their young guys off of this team. And I don't know if that's guys that signed during a coaching change and stuff. Certainly Auburn didn't rotate their guys very much on the D line, so you had a lot of these like very talented freshmen who weren't playing at all. And look, there's always two sides to that kind of story, but it kind of goes to show you, like, man, you have to be kind of careful. Like, if you just don't play your freshmen at all, there's definitely a chance they could just leave.
Max, are you at all kind of baffled by Caleb Williams still not making a decision?
Yes, and I'm living in fear every day that it's about to happen, and you're off your phone for an hour and miss it or something, because I think we're all just sitting here waiting for this to happen. And I would have thought that probably about 2 weeks ago or so that he would commit to USC, and I think that it's a little weird how quiet it's been in these 2 weeks since. And you saw the report this week that Wisconsin was now a contender for them. I've heard that too. I don't totally get that, but I've heard it. I think there's a connection there with the OC they're going to hire, and being maybe a family friend or something like that. But certainly I think UCLA was trying to get in the mix there. There's been reports LSU's in the mix. It's I'd be shocked if it's not USC, and if it's not USC, that would be pretty wild to see who it is.
Max, what is the timeline as far as USC starting classes? I've seen a lot of scuttlebutt about that, but I just wondered if you knew for sure what the actual dates and meetings they had were in terms of him and enrolling.
Yeah, I don't have the dates in front of me here. I know it's before the end of the month here, so I think it is coming up pretty soon. And yeah, that is always a factor in these things. Is you think a kid like him, he and Jackson Dart have kind of been dragging this out for a while, but eventually these kids have to show up to school and go through winter workouts and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting to see. You have to think in both of those cases we're getting close to the finish line here.
I saw a list, and there's a list out there, and you, of course, are all over the transfer portal as well as good, better than anybody. That Baylor's lost 3, and there's some schools that have lost 2, 3, 4. Sometimes that might not be because there's not many players that really have better options, but isn't that a stability thing? Doesn't that just kind of, again, put that arms around what Dave Aranda's building, that culture at Baylor?
I think so, and I think right now you talk to coaches, they never really want to pat themselves on the back too much when they're not losing guys, because that could be right around the corner, and maybe that happens in post spring or summer or whatever. But certainly, I think that especially when you're trying to, it's a factor obviously in what Baylor was able to do in 2021, because certainly a lot of those guys that played in that Big 12 title game, that played in that New Year's Six game, are guys that could have transferred at some point in their career with the changes that they went through and the setbacks and all that. So it goes to show you, look, everyone's got attrition right now, and sometimes you got a lot of it. But, I think Baylor being able to hold it together and then add guys, I think is certainly a great sign. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Sometimes these guys, they come back around. Like one guy that's getting offers now is Prince Pines, and you may remember him. Left Baylor, went down to Sam Houston and started there, and is now a coveted guy again. Sometimes these guys leave and end up going to FCS or G5 and then go back in the portal another time.
Yeah, Eliasa Anderson's another one that former Baylor offensive lineman, now at Sam Houston
FBS
State.
Offers now.
Yeah, absolutely. Max, so your thoughts on Derek Mason and Oklahoma State? Obviously, with Jim Knowles going to Ohio State, they had a big job to fill there. I know they also lost Jarek Bernard-Converse to LSU, so they've had some exodus. But your thoughts on the big hire by Mike Gundy?
Yeah, really, really impressive. It seemed like Derek Mason was leaving Auburn no matter what. It seemed like he was not very happy working with Brian Harsin there. And so Mike Gundy, having the opening that he did, in the past, Gundy has gone for, the guy we've never heard of, the guy that's coaching at the, maybe a lower level school. And he's had a lot of success doing that. Jim Knowles came from Duke and wasn't obviously a big name, and now he's a very well-paid guy at Ohio State. I thought it was impressive, a home run swing by Mike Gundy here, and I think it can work. I don't really think that there's going to be some sort of clash here, because Mike Gundy is very hands off when it comes to the defense, and lets he likes to say he's very easy to work for from that standpoint. He left Jim Knowles alone and let him concoct whatever he wanted to do. And yeah, as you mentioned, certainly there's a challenge here because they set the bar so high with one of the best defenses in the country. And you're losing, I think, there's still some guys that probably have to make decisions, but I think probably losing 7 starters off that defense. So you're not going to, quite be at that level next year. And you've lost some pretty good players there. But, I really like that pickup for Oklahoma State to, try and maintain this level they're at. And certainly they're comfortable playing that brand of ball now.
We've had 2 different questions to you in this interview about people leaving Auburn. And I know it was mutual between Derek Mason and Brian Harsin, but what's kind of going on there? Is Brian Harsin struggling to find his footing?
Yeah. That's just one of those you kind of hear a lot of stuff about. Yeah, maybe it's not going great over there, and they weren't horrible this season. They were competitive, especially in the first half of the season. I think broke into the top 25, and they weren't awful in year 1 here, but. I'm not sure how well that's been a fit, and it was a little bit of a head scratcher. As successful as Boise's been, it was a little bit of a head scratcher for Auburn to go in that direction with their hire. And I'm not sure everyone's really loving how it's going so far. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat today, but that's one of those that'll be interesting to watch here this year. They need to win probably a good amount of football games this year and get some momentum in recruiting and all that, because that tenure so far is off to a little bit of a shaky start.
Well, and we got a text here real quick on the text line. Not sure Harsin can survive at Auburn. Didn't seem like a good fit from the beginning before you even asked that question as well, Paul. Craig?
Max, what have you thought of the job Brent Venables and staff have done so far at Oklahoma? Been very active, obviously had to be with all of the attrition that they suffered in the wake of Lincoln Riley's exit, but they've been very busy and, just picked up a quarterback commit the other day. Your thoughts?
Yeah, certainly one of those schools that has attacked their problems head on in terms of the transfer portal and adding, I think over 10 players from the transfer portal now, and certainly some very impactful ones. Really trying to restock that roster fast. And yeah, I have been impressed by the job that Jeff Levy's done to start this thing off, to go get Dylan Gabriel and get Nick Evers and then get Jackson Arnold committed for the next class. Certainly. When Lincoln Riley left, and then Caleb and Rattler leave, you're like, man, what is going on here? Who's going to start for him? And I think they got that solved pretty quickly. So it'll be very interesting to see. Jackson Arnold's a top 100 recruit, and I think could end up being the best high school quarterback prospect in the state of Texas this year. It'd be fascinating to see, will that kind of continue to be the brand for Oklahoma with this new staff and regime? Can they still be, one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, in a place that, continues to kind of be a quarterback factory that's taking really highly rated guys and turning them into high draft picks? Well,
the NCAA convention was last week. We spoke with you a little bit about that. I saw where Andy Staples today had a story about the change of thought when it comes to divisions and colleges and what they're going to do. What are your thoughts? Is there a right way or a wrong way when it comes to college conferences and divisions or not?
I think I get that. It's funny because we've had a chance to kind of watch that up close, what that looks like. And it does seem like other conferences are starting to figure out that, hey, going into the future, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to do it the way the Big 12 does it, where you don't have divisions and you're ensuring 1 versus 2 in your conference title game, because that's not something you always get in these other leagues. And I kind of get that logic kind of going forward. And you can do some creative things in terms of scheduling pods and stuff like that in terms of scheduling, but I do think that makes sense, and certainly we all know the Big 12 is kind of in a weird spot here going forward, because you got to start putting a plan together for a 14-team league, and I know from the folks I've talked to, it seems like there's all sorts of ideas on how that works. I don't think that there's one idea that everyone kind of agrees on, and so I'm interested to see what direction that goes in, and whether they feel like divisions is the right move for the conference as they go from 10 to 14 to 12.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for your time. Max Olson, TheAthletic.com, covers college football for TheAthletic.com. Also, Mike Rodak, AL.com, covers Alabama men's basketball. We will have him momentarily as well. And then also at the bottom of the hour, Mickey Spagnola, his thoughts about the Dan Quinn story and really what were maybe some behind the scenes of whether or not he saw a job or two he wanted. They did not then hire him, and he said, hell, I'm staying with the Cowboys, and how positive a news that might be. And then Craig's off the radar in 30 minutes. Mike Rodak, AL.com, covers Alabama men's basketball. Mike, thanks a lot. Baylor and Alabama coming up Saturday, and a hell of a game. I saw where Alabama might be trying to do a whiteout, whatever it might do to continue to juice up that crowd. We mentioned something a day or two on this show. The wins that Alabama has are spectacular, and I know they have a recent loss to Auburn, but the losses are sometimes you scratch your head. Who are they, Mike?
That's a great question, because they've probably been one of the most inconsistent teams in America this season. It's pretty incredible, especially considering last year. They got better as the season went on last year, and it's really been the opposite this year. I think they've gotten worse. And yeah, they go out and they beat Gonzaga, they beat Houston, and that Gonzaga game too was in Seattle, and that was in front of a crowd of 19,000 Gonzaga fans and probably 10 Alabama fans, and they played their best game of the year. And then they lose at Georgia, they lose at Missouri. It's just the team that I think is a little bit immature. They lack leadership. They don't have what they had last year in Herb Jones, who was a really just kind of level-headed veteran sort of player who became SEC Player of the Year, became SEC Defensive Player of the Year, and now is doing some pretty big things in the NBA for the Pelicans. And they miss that. They miss that sort of gritty player who just goes out and plays 40 minutes every night and doesn't care about the highlight reel or any of that stuff. And I think that a few of their guys are a little bit too fixated on what do I need to do to get to the NBA? What am I doing for the highlight reel type of plays and beating guys and getting dunks? It's not team basketball. There's definitely a problem with effort. And it's just at this point in the year, we're on the doorstep of February. You kind of have to wonder what this team will be, the final month of the season. But right now, it's a lot of kind of disjointed, talented players who aren't playing very well together.
So is that why it's so befuddling that they are giant killers when it comes to playing some of these big teams?
Well, I think they get up for those games, and I think that especially the home games where the crowd kind of gets behind them and there's some energy and there's sort of that oomph that they need to just go out and play really well and play to their capability. That's when they beat Gonzaga, they beat Houston at home, they beat LSU at home, they beat Tennessee at home when Tennessee was in the top 15. So they get the crowd behind them. That I think definitely helps. And their home record is very good. They lost at Auburn a couple weeks ago, and that was a pretty close game, down towards the end. Other than that, that was their first loss at home in over a year. You go back to December of 2020. So, I guess the saving grace for this Alabama-Baylor game on Alabama's end is that it's at home, and you have that crowd, you have the energy. It's a Saturday game, which does make a difference, crowd-wise in Tuscaloosa, because a lot of their fan base is coming from Birmingham, which is over an hour away. You play a weeknight game, the crowds there are just not great. Because people aren't going to drive an hour both ways for a weeknight game. But a Saturday game, you're looking at a much bigger crowd, and I think, that definitely gives them some energy.
What are your thoughts right now on the current landscape of the SEC? I mean, Auburn's obviously having a lot of success, a lot of attention being placed on them, but Kentucky obviously is always going to be in the mix. It's a pretty tight grouping. I mean, only a couple of games separating teams for the most part. What are your thoughts about just the way the conference is set up at this point?
Yeah, I mean, Auburn seems like they're in the driver's seat, especially having beaten Kentucky. Alabama still can't be completely counted out just because they still have some games. They have another game coming up against Auburn. They have two games coming up against Kentucky. They've already beaten LSU. They have another LSU game coming up, and they've already beaten Tennessee. So they have the wins that I think they would need if they got into a tiebreaker situation, or they could get those wins if they kind of turn things around. So you can't really discount them. But I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to be Auburn or Kentucky up at the top as far as, regular season championships. And, I think Alabama still has some sort of hope that they can get hot in the tournament. Nate Oates was talking to his team after they lost to Georgia and brought up UCLA last year. And not that they didn't do anything in the Pac-12 tournament, but in the NCAA tournament, they kind of turned things around and they ended up beating Alabama when Alabama was a 2 seed in the Sweet 16. And obviously went to the Final Four. So that's kind of his hope, is that his team can kind of be a late starter and, kind of pick things up by February or March. And I want to totally rule them out of the SEC right now.
Yeah, wins against Gonzaga, Houston, LSU. Losses, Auburn, obviously, number one. And then Iona with Pitino, right? Obviously a team they beat in the NCAA tournament. Did last year's season, even with those, as you mentioned, they lost, did that launch people's expectations that they would just go back and do it again this year? And has it been then a little bit disappointing?
Definitely, yeah. I think that was one of the things that Nate Oates was trying to guard against, even beginning of the season when he was talking about what was going to happen with the team. He basically said, look, like what we did last year was very good for what the Alabama standard has been. They won their first SEC tournament in 30 years. Doesn't mean it's going to happen every year, especially when you lose basically their top 6 players from last year, or at least their 6 most veteran players from last year is what they lost. Ended up going either to the NBA or played overseas. So that's going to hurt, especially as we found out now from kind of a leadership and maturity standpoint. That's probably where it even hurts even more. Even if you have the talent coming up behind them, can't really easily replace that right away. So that's kind of been the situation. But, at the end of the day, I think fans are still overly, the overall picture, still happy with where Oates has brought the program compared to where it was before. They still have, I think, a top 3 recruiting class coming in next year. They have 2 McDonald's All-Americans that they signed in November. So, I think the future is still bright, but they kind of have to figure things out right now in the short term.
What's a success in the next 3? 1-2 or 2-1 when it's Baylor, Auburn, Kentucky?
I think if they can win one of them, then they're in decent enough shape, just because their schedule does lighten up a little bit in February, where I think they have Ole Miss, South Carolina, A&M, where they can win. If obviously, who knows with the way they played, but they could win all those games and then kind of put themselves in a position to make a run later on. If they go 0-3, I think people are really going to start to tune out around here, because the hope all along has been, all right, well, they play well against good teams. If you don't play well against these next 3 good teams, then I think people are going to be looking forward to next year. But I think if they can get one out of the 3, then they're going to be in a decent enough spot here.
Mike, I don't know how much you've been able to see Baylor this year, but just in terms of what you do know about them, your thoughts on how they match up with Alabama?
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton, but I'd say if you're trying to beat Alabama, you got to play them with a big man, and you got to play them really tough. If you can out physical Alabama, that's kind of been their weakness this year as far as rebounding, effort plays, all that stuff is just kind of where teams punch them in the mouth. And these guys they don't have that DNA to kind of punch back. So I don't really know exactly where Baylor falls on that spectrum of, just gritty and toughness, but it's been those sort of teams that have really gotten Alabama this year. And I think that's kind of their weakness. And look, if Alabama's not shooting, which they haven't been all year, I mean, they're 294th in the country in 3-point percentage, then they really got to win someplace else. And last year they won with their defense when they weren't shooting. This year their defense just hasn't been there to the same level. So that's really been their problem. Yeah,
and the grittiness and the toughness is what Baylor has kind of now become, as far as they don't have the big, tall, lanky 6'10" guy, but they have a couple of guys that can move around pretty well. And I know Auburn's averaging 40 rebounds a game, Baylor 38, so that'll be interesting. And what Shackelford and Quinterly can do for Alabama. Mike, thank you very much. We appreciate it. The Alabama basketball last year, 3rd round, lost in overtime to UCLA. And, yeah, they've had a tough little stretch here at the wrong time. And now, as Craig, you mentioned, Baylor, Auburn, and Kentucky back-to-back-to-back is pretty tough.
Yeah, I'd say so. And, yeah, thanks to Mike for his time. Yeah, it's not easy. I don't know what to say. That's tough. I mean, that's a bad schedule break to have those 3 teams lined up. And, Auburn's kind of running away with it. I mean, there's time and room for some other teams to maybe get their hands in the pot in terms of trying to pull away that SEC trophy. But right now Auburn's cruising. I mean, unbeaten in SEC play, and everybody else has got a couple of losses. I mean, Kentucky's got 2, then you got a handful of teams with 3 losses, a handful of teams with 4 and 5 losses as well. So yeah, Auburn's in the driver's seat right now, unbeaten in conference play, and and just one loss on the year. So, it should be fun to see Bama and that atmosphere and that crowd, but it sounds like they're pretty desperate for a win. So Baylor go in there and take care of their business, get the job done, get back to Big 12 play. That'd be good for them, but that'd be a huge win for Alabama if they can pull it off and maybe launch them into something those next couple of games afterwards as well.
It does seem like the SEC is deeper. Yeah?
Deeper than the Big 12?
No. No one's deeper than the Big 12, but it's deeper than they have been for the most part. Yeah.
Yes, they're a better basketball conference right now, and they've been good, but I think that right now they're really, it's a lot more competitive.
Well, it was usually for the last 6-7 years, it's been a top team, a second-tier team, and then nothing. And now you got 5 or 6 teams that are all really good.
Well, Arkansas, remember, they made their run last year. Last year, Arkansas made their run before they were wiped out. Kentucky, of course. Now, A&M had a great start. They were unbeaten in the SEC. They've now lost 3 consecutive games to Kentucky, Arkansas, and LSU.
Yeah, and they'd really started to build up. They were really starting to get some momentum for like home crowds and stuff. I was seeing more talk than ever before on my timeline about people going to the basketball games and, making it a great atmosphere and all of that. And, A&M fans are always going to be there to support. But it seems like they had gotten a little, excitement building up. And then, now they've gone on a little bit of a losing streak. And we'll see if they'll keep up that energy. But, Buzz Williams is a good coach. I'm sure they'll, give some people some problems along the way, the rest of this way. But, that was kind of rough for them to go on a little bit of a stretch where they weren't winning. But, the SEC is a fun conference. We'll see what happens this weekend. They took the last Big 12 SEC challenge, and this thing's kind of gone back and forth in the last few years that they've been doing this, and it's usually pretty fun to watch. So I'm definitely, interested in Tennessee and Texas and Bama, Baylor, and all the rest of those matchups will be fun.
Some of you on the chat room, a couple of you mentioned this, and then we'll take a break. Timothy, how do you beat Alabama? Have a shrimp boil in the locker room? Not sure what the hell that means. Gary Lewis, no verification. Tony Price, another great show. Thank you, gentlemen. You're getting me addicted. Tony, thank you so much.
That's interesting about Nate Oates. And just kind of the position that he finds himself in now. And I noticed, too, in looking back at some Alabama stuff that he, after, I guess, the Georgia loss, went in the locker room and it's like, I don't have anything, I'm not going to do the talking. You guys do the talking. And I think when you get to that point, that's usually not a very good sign. So
they're not hitting this stretch at the right time.
No. So, I think Saturday will mean a lot in terms of, given what they have following right after that and the fact that they're in a state right now where things are a little uneasy. Yeah, it's big for them to have a big performance on Saturday. But that's not a team I would want to play coming in Baylor either if I was in that situation.
And yet they're a giant killer with Gonzaga, Houston, LSU as teams that they have beaten as well. Also, Lilchie, 7-21 A&M will hand Auburn its first loss, since A&M always spoils it. Then there's a few of you, of course, March Madness around the corner.
Yep.
Gary Lewis, a big UCLA fan when they won and knocked out Alabama. Tennessee, Texas, Kentucky, Kansas, Baylor, Alabama, and more. Coming up next, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, the news about Dan Quinn coming back and maybe behind the scenes with that. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Cars are coming, trucks are coming. If you have been waiting to buy a new GMC, Buick, or Cadillac, now's the time to contact Richard Carr Motors as they are receiving deliveries of new cars and trucks each week. You can get on their inbound vehicle list and get your new car or truck as they arrive. Plus, buy a car now and get 0% financing for 72 months for qualified buyers. If you're looking for an SUV, well, it's the perfect place because Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac has 11 SUV models to choose from with dozens of trim options. They are a one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs. They've got the sophistication and luxury of a Cadillac Escalade or the fun and nimble Buick Encore. They have whatever you're looking for. They've got an SUV for what you want, and they've got SUVs starting right now at just $24,000. So call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family. And if you're not looking to buy new, well, they're also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. All have gone through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot, and they have over 10 lenders who will do what it takes to get you in a car today, as 100% credit approval is always their goal. So go online or come by the dealership for a test drive today. So if you're in the Central Texas area, trust the good local people that you've been able to count on for over 20 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans and Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to the water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Brad Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show. Necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
My friend TJ at Bleed Orange 82, he's been following us forever. About once a week, DJ will send me a direct message of something with a snake. And today it's the San Antonio water department. The water system employee opened up, I guess, the top to a PVC pipe, and there's a big, fat, ugly, nasty, mean-spirited moccasin. You never open up the top of a water meter out in front of your yard or wherever it might be without a stick, because you usually will find something underneath of it, not just the water meter and the handle. We're now joined by Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, the news today about Dan Quinn coming back. How much of it was that there were one or two jobs in which he would have left had they given him the opportunity, and how much of it was Jerry doing something that would make it hard for him to leave?
Well, I think there could have been something to the latter. And then, I think there was something to maybe he just didn't feel comfortable taking, a job. I don't know if it was offered to him or not, or if it got full. You know how sometimes it happens when they hire somebody else and you say you take your name out of the hat?
Oh, yeah.
But if you looked at just kind of how he treated this whole thing, it just didn't seem to me that he was just anxious to take a head coaching job or just take any head coaching job just to become a head coach once again. I think it had to be, kind of the right situation. He's been there, done that. And I think when you're looking to maybe restart your head coaching career, I think you look at the organization, you look at who's the GM, and maybe first and foremost, you look at, well, who's my quarterback? Because one of the main reasons most of these jobs are open and the head coach got fired, it was because the quarterback, right, didn't have somebody you can sink your teeth into for the majority of those openings. So I always kind of felt in the back of my mind that there would be a chance that he would come back because I think he had such a good time this year and maybe just wasn't chomping at the bit to be a head coach again, even though he took all the trips, right? Maybe he just liked to travel.
Mickey, I mean, not to say that Kellen Moore won't, out of the blue, somebody might hire him, but it seems to be trending that they'll have both coordinators back right now.
Yeah, although Kellen's got more interviews. I think he's on his way to Miami. Was that the last one? It's kind of hard to keep track, right? Yeah. I think there's a good possibility. And again, if the final exam had been the playoff game against the Niners, I don't know that they put a big impression out there on the people that are doing the hiring. So, yeah, I think that's a good possibility that, Kellen Moore would be back also.
Mickey, with Dan Quinn coming back, what improvements, what areas of need, focus do you see with this Cowboys defense in 2022?
Well, they got to do a better job of stopping the run. If you look at the numbers, and this should have been a kind of a tall tale sign going into this game. The games they won, they did a pretty good job of stopping teams from running the football. The games they've lost, I think I figured out that they had given up at least 120 yards rushing. And in the playoff game, right, against the Niners, well, what happened? The Niners ended up running for 169 yards. The other thing that's got to improve is eliminating the number of big plays they gave up. And they gave up a lot. And the majority of those were in the games they lost. Over the course of the season, opponents had 76 plays of 20 yards or more, meaning run or pass. And if you look at what happened in the game against San Francisco ended up with 15 plays of at least 10 yards. So while the Cowboys did a nice job with takeaways, and the majority of those, by the way, were in the games they won, they finished a plus 14, tied for first. But if you look at the games they lost, they were -1. And in the playoff game, they were 0 in turnover differential. So again, you can't just rely on takeaways to survive defensively. You've got to have the ability to get good teams off the field, and they failed at that.
Can they afford both DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory at a high price?
Well, that depends on what Randy Gregory's price is. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence is here, right? Mm-hmm. They've already invested money in him, and it would cost them money to, move on in dead money. So once you pay those guys that big of a salary, they're yours. And there's a penalty to pay if you get rid of them. So the question is, what's Randy Gregory's market value? What's it going to be? And what and how much does he want? And I think, if it's reasonable, I think they can make room to get him. And I think that's one of the things that's got to be one of their free agent priorities, to try to re-sign him. But again, there's a price to pay on this salary cap when you keep stars, you keep your quarterback, you keep your running back, you keep your offensive tackles, and you keep at that time, your best pass rusher in DeMarcus Lawrence. So, I think that market value can be a mean opponent.
Of the ones who can go free agents, Schultz is one, obviously, and then you mentioned Gregory as well. Who has more value? To me, the pass rusher. Schultz is the tight end, but boy, he sure became a very invaluable part of that offense. It seemed to me he was the go-to guy in some cases.
Well, he was, David, and you're right. And I think he was valuable. And, while they had to re-sign Blake Jarwin, unfortunately for him, came back from the torn ACL, and by the time he got going, then he ended up getting a little something, and then COVID, and didn't have the season he would like to have had. But yeah, think about what Schultz did. Think about what he's done in these last 2 years. And he ends up, I want to say, and I don't have it right off the top of my head, he had 70-some catches, right? You'd be hard-pressed to find another tight end in Cowboy history not named Jason Witten with 70 catches in a single season. So, yeah, I think he was an integral part. And, again, that one's going to come down to market value. What does some other team think he is worth? And it's his right to, kind of explore that and see what he can find. Now, he may not be looked at as a Kelsey, a Kittle, guys that big time down the field. But, boy, for down in and down out tight end, he's been pretty good. And I would imagine that's another one that they're going to scratch their head and go, okay, what can we do to try to get this done to keep him on this team?
Mickey, do you, just given how the ownership felt about how they squandered their time with Tony Romo. We've heard them say that, heard him in one of the documentaries say like they really was on them for really not realizing some of the deficiencies they had on the team when Romo was there and not getting to that promised land. How much do you expect him to see? Not a whole shift, but maybe some more aggressiveness when it comes to certain things in trying to make sure that Dak Prescott's time is also not squandered?
Well, and again, we go back to the salary cap. You can only do so much. But if they're being realistic, they need to look at that offensive line and go, okay, that wasn't acceptable. And we've got to make some upgrades there. So I'll be interested to see, just where they go. I don't know that they've got a bunch of money to go into free agency and say, okay, I'm going to go buy the best guard available. You'll probably have to do that during the draft. And I would think one of their priorities would be, and they've done this previously with other guys, they've drafted a tackle first or second round and let them play guard until it was time to move the tackle. Lozelle Adams comes to mind right away. Think about what happened with Larry Allen. He was a guard and they needed help at tackle a year or so later, and he moved to tackle before he went back to guard. So I think they need at least a high draft choice as a versatile offensive lineman, and then take a good look not only at the guard spot, the center spot, and be realistic about where Tyron Smith is. If he can stay healthy, and I don't think he was healthy, even though he played in the playoff game. I think that ankle was still giving him problems. If he's healthy, he plays well, but we've seen what happened. So I think you're going to have to start making some hard decisions. And I'm not saying getting rid of him, but I think you have to start planning for the future and restocking the offensive line that they did such a good job of between 2011 and 2015, when they drafted Zach Martin and added Travis Frederick in the middle of that. I think that's one of the things they absolutely have to look at, because the 49ers exposed their deficiencies there.
Mickey, I guess this kind of plays into my question as well, but in watching those incredible games this past weekend and, looking, I know a lot of Cowboys fans had to be sitting there watching those games going, man, we should be here. But what do you see as the differences in why those teams are in that position and the Cowboys are not in that position this year?
Well, I think I just hit on it.
Yeah.
With the exception of Cincinnati, who won a game with their quarterback getting sacked 9 times. Mm-hmm. Generally, what I've seen in these playoff games, the teams that have the best offensive line, most productive offensive line, meaning not only protecting the quarterback, but the ability to run the football, ended up winning these games. And to me, it was quite obvious. It's hard to win a game, although, like I said, Cincinnati did it, when your quarterback is sacked 5 times and hit 14 more times in the process of throwing the football. But I can't, underestimate the ability to run the ball. San Francisco ran for 169 yards against them. The Cowboys, couldn't get to 77. I think it shows up in games. So I think that's what stuck out to me. And then just making plays when you need to make them. And they just didn't do that against good teams. So, yeah, there's a lot of room to improve. And, the other thing that, I think I came to grips with is that, they were 12-5. I get it. They won the division, 3rd seed. But I think at times, we ignored their shortcomings that were pretty evident in their 5 losses. It was almost the same. Gave up too many rushing yards. Couldn't run the ball. Couldn't protect the quarterback. Didn't get the takeaways you needed to get. And that's what happened against good teams. I mean, think about it. The only, they beat Philadelphia twice. The second time, though, the Eagles punted the last game of the season. But the only other team they beat, basically that was going to the playoffs, was New England. And we saw what they were in the first round of the playoffs. So, I think that there were some things that kind of disguised what the Cowboys' shortcomings were, especially against good teams.
Mickey, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. A lot to get to in the offseason. Appreciate your time. Mickey Spagnola, Thursdays forever with us, from even back in the days of radio stations past, from DallasCowboys.com. When we do come back, Craig Smoak and Off the Radar, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader right now. $50 at BetUS.com gets you a bonus. Sikkim 125, 125% on cash, or Sikkim 200, it's a 200% bonus on crypto. So just $50. So if you're worried about what it'd take to get the bonus, just $50 to get those bonuses. To sign up now at BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader. The NFL Conference Championships are this weekend. The Super Bowl's in a couple weeks. All of that's coming down at BetUS.com. They'll have great prop bets on the Super Bowl as well. Action on almost every sport around the world. So they've got your game at BetUS.com. Use promo code Sikkim125 or Sikkim200.
This month, it's all about the championship drive as our hometown team celebrated the Big 12 championship in a Sugar Bowl win. So can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. During the Start Something New sales event, shop for power, performance, and reliability with Allen Samuels. Maybe you're planning your next adventure. Choose from a range of Jeep models, including the 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar, taking a look at just various stories across sports. Some we might have touched on a little bit, some we haven't mentioned at all. One thing we have talked about a little bit is the new NFL hires and the continuing NFL coaching carousel. Nearly a third of the league with vacancies at the start of this coaching carousel. Not quite a third, but close to it, and that's just kind of wild when you think about a third of the league replacing their head coaches. But 2 jobs have now been filled. The Broncos have gone with Nathaniel Hackett of the Packers. This has caused already a disruption I see on Twitter because, it's another job Eric Bieniemy's not getting, and there's already questions about Hackett. He wasn't the one that called plays. He had Rodgers and Adams and this and that. Never mind, Bieniemy has Kelsey and Mahomes and Cheetah and all those guys too. But it is going to be Nathaniel Hackett as the new man in Denver, and he takes over for Vic Fangio. And that Denver job's one to watch, right? Because Aaron Rodgers, and that's maybe part of the reason why he was the choice, was maybe he can ply Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay,
like Lincoln Riley to USC to get Caleb Williams.
Yeah, exactly like that. And we'll see if it works out for both parties. But it will be Nathaniel Hackett taking over for Vic Fangio in Denver, and then Matt Eberflus, former Colts DC, hired as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He replaces Matt Nagy. So that leaves the Houston Texans, who fired, of course, David Culley after 1 year. The Giants, moving on from Joe Judge. The Dolphins, moving on from Brian Flores. And I see that Flores is interviewing with jobs. And it really is, like Mickey mentioned, it's hard to keep track of who all's interviewing where and when and all of that.
They have new rules, too, where they could start in the bye weeks or all the deals.
So it's really hard to keep track of who all's interviewed and who all's interested in who and all of that jazz. But the Giants are open, the Dolphins open, Vikings remain open, Raiders remain open, and that's the team really just because they're in Las Vegas now. If they were still the Oakland Raiders, I don't think they'd be getting talked about with Jim Harbaugh and all the other names that are being attached to the Raiders right now. But they're open. Jaguars obviously are open, and the New Orleans Saints are open as well. So still 7 jobs to be filled, but the Colts lose Eberflus to the Bears, and the Broncos make their hire. So your thoughts on those 2 hires in particular?
I like Matt Eberflus. I think the Bears need to do what the Steelers do and find someone who has the attitude of Chicago. That's the thing that Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin all got. They got the attitude of Pittsburgh. What is Pittsburgh? What is going to work here for the fans? What's going to play? What's going to jive with their ownership? I hope Matt Eberflus is that guy for the Bears. There's just too much flux for a legacy NFL organization that's only had one great quarterback ever, and it was before there were face masks. In Sid Luckman.
Oh, yeah.
Go back and look. I've done this. The Bears have never had a great quarterback in the modern era.
I can't think of one that they've had, and my area would probably start off around Jim McMahon.
The only Super Bowl they've won was Jim McMahon, and he's not what you'd call. He had a great season.
He was not great.
But that was about that defense. So find something that keeps it there and keeps it consistent. I hope that's Matt Eberflus. I know he was really well thought of. Rod Marinelli used to talk about him
Vince Evans
like
was a Hall of Famer, the former USC quarterback.
There's
honestly the best Bears quarterback, or the Bears quarterback that I think of from my childhood is Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
that's who I think of.
He was solid. Yeah,
he was solid, but I mean, he wasn't fantastic. To Paul's point, he wasn't. They haven't had a generational type of player.
Isn't that crazy?
But Justin Fields, they hope will be that. It's just
the Packers.
The right coach.
The Packers have had 3 generational quarterbacks, and Bart Starr, Brett Favre, and Aaron Rodgers, and 2 of those back-to-back in their own division. Look, the Vikings had one. The Vikings had Fran Tarkenton.
I can't believe
the
Rex Grossman slander we've got going on here.
Yeah, but Rex Grossman and Jay Cutler were their most successful quarterbacks over the last decade or so and a half, and that's just not good. I like Nathaniel Hackett to Denver. I think a good offensive mind they're just missing a quarterback. Denver only needs a quarterback. That is a good young team with good offensive talent, really good defensive talent that can win games if they have a quarterback. And if I'm a quarterback, a veteran like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, and I want out of my current situation, Denver would be my first choice.
As mentioned earlier, another team that will be looking for a quarterback, the Steelers, as Big Ben announces that he's retiring after 18 years. He's 39 years old, made an announcement on social media. Elsewhere, the USFL has hired another couple of coaches as they get ready to get underway. The New Orleans Breakers have hired former Baylor offensive coordinator and former North Carolina head coach and assistant all over the place, Larry Fedora, the new coach of the New Orleans Breakers. And the Michigan Panthers also making a hire, and they go with Jeff Fisher, longtime NFL head coach. So Larry Fedora and Jeff Fisher are part of the new USFL.
The Michigan Panthers are one of the best teams of the old USFL.
Yeah, they were. Bobby Hebert,
yeah. And who was their? Hold on, I got to see who the. I think that this kind of following suit, I want to say that their head coach was another former NFL head coach.
The
original Michigan Panthers.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea. That was before me.
Philadelphia had Kelvin Bryant. I don't know. Yeah,
did you watch much USFL?
Yeah, I did, because at the time,
it was Jim Stanley. Never mind.
When they first started, there were enough stars to make you watch, and it was during the off time for you to watch if you're a football fan. And I was young enough where I could keep up with one thing at a time. But no, I mean, the USFL with Steve Young, and I covered the Houston Gamblers with Jim Kelly and others. Well, Ricky Sanders played with the Redskins Super Bowl team, was a star for that team.
Yeah, I don't think that this USFL is going to be able to get those guys.
No, you're not going to get Steve Young, Jim Kelly, Kelvin Bryant, Herschel Walker.
I think the Los Angeles Express still technically owe Steve Young money.
Well, that's ultimately what these leagues come down to is they just don't have the talent. They don't have the stars. They don't have the guys that make you want to watch. Like Johnny Manziel's appealing to a very certain segment of people, and they all live or regularly visit College Station. But at this point, the allure of Johnny football, that's way gone, you know? And so, like, who are the guys? I mean, that was what those leagues, like, 3-4 years ago had to try and entice people, was a Johnny Manziel. You didn't have that now. Like, you don't really have – so, I don't know. It'll be – you know, another experiment for one of these leagues to try and just, you know, be an option and not necessarily even compete with the NFL. I don't think anybody's stupid enough to think that any of these leagues will do that, but at least survive would be an accomplishment because we've seen so many come and go. But with Fedora's hire, what do you think about that? What do you think about Larry Fedora getting
I understand it was a bad year at Baylor. It was a bad year at Baylor for everybody, and he, of course, was one that was that took a lot of the heat because the offense was so bad. And if it wasn't Fedora, it was Charlie Brewer. It was a bad matchup, and they got rid of him quickly. Larry Fedora didn't forget the coach.
No. But the good news for Larry Fedora, and this is a good thing for Baylor fans, is that he won't have any film to watch.
You stole it.
He won't have any film to watch
the comedian
at all.
On mine.
He wanted none. So there's no previous film.
Are you going to watch the previous film and go? No, I don't usually do that.
That don't know. I think I was the one that actually might have asked him that question during a media session, and he said he hadn't watched any film of the team from the previous year, and then you had COVID into that, and then the offense struggled the way that it did, and people did not let that quote go. They did not let that go. So
you know who also said the same thing? Chancey Stuckey this past year as a wide receiver.
But here's the thing. Most off seasons you can make the excuse that you don't need to because you'll have spring. Like his point when he got asked that question was, well, we've got spring football, and I'm going to evaluate on what's current with spring football because what spring football is that's the most recent thing. Well, when you don't have that, and then you still kind of stuck to that, and we're all sitting in our houses for 4 months.
Watching Charlie Brewer run into brick walls over and over again.
Like, you're like, may want to just throw on some of that tape.
So the USFL head coaches now, Larry Fedora in New Orleans, Jeff Fisher in Michigan, Bart Andrus in Philadelphia, Todd Haley with the Tampa Bay Bandits, Skip Holtz in Birmingham. Birmingham would be if he was in England. Mike Riley, New Jersey Generals, Kevin Sumlin, the Houston Gamblers, and Kirby Wilson, the Pittsburgh Maulers.
That's a neat mixture.
Are your USFL head coaches?
Some guys that were hot and made some money because of it. Some of them that rode the waves of who they had at quarterback, and some that are trying to make comebacks. Okay.
Elijah Warner, son of Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, is committed to Temple. He plays quarterback. I just thought that was neat because Kurt Warner had that movie come out, and I trashed the trailer, and rightfully so because the trailer was garbage. It made it look like a fake movie in a way. But I actually did hear, to follow up on that, a lot of people who I saw did see that movie actually really enjoyed it. They liked it a lot. So I'll own that one, but the trailer made it look like a bad Disney movie or something. But apparently it was pretty good. I don't know. But yeah, Elijah Warner, son of Kurt Warner, has committed to play for the Temple Owls, a part of their 2022 class. He goes to Brophy College Preparatory in Phoenix, so we'll see a second-generation guy there. And speaking of second-generation guys, Deion Sanders is obviously doing his thing at Jackson State, and his son Shedeur Sanders is one of their stars, obviously. And he, I guess, not only because he's a good player, but also because he is Deion's son, has benefited from some name, image, likeness. And I think also the push for the promotion of HBCUs has also played heavily into this. So you got Deion's kid who's playing at Jackson State and is pretty good. And, people want to see HBCUs do well. Well, Shedeur Sanders signed a NIL deal with Gatorade. He is going to be a Gatorade athlete. Jackson State standout. I didn't see any of the details on money that he'll get or anything like that. But he was the SWAC Freshman of the Year at one point. Of course, Dion was the league's Coach of the Year. Shedeur also won the Jerry Rice Award. And it's the first ever deal by Gatorade to an historically black college and university spokesperson. He said it's an honor to join the Gatorade family and represent this historic moment for HBCU athletes. He got a Beats by Dre deal last year, so he's just getting all the top brands. But yeah, Shedeur Sanders signs with Gatorade.
I do think that, especially if this continues, and I hope that it does for the HBCUs, they are an untapped market of. There's a lot think about some of the celebrities that have come out of HBCUs that you could. But it's still you've got.
There's a market there.
There's a market there that's been untapped and people have been paying attention to. And the football for a long time, was really good.
The HBCUs in football in the 60s and 70s fed the NFL a lot of gravy train.
Yeah.
There were some, and even 80s.
Yeah. So it could be good again.
Yep, it could. And, especially the longer that Dion stays around and whoever they can tempt to, come in and join him potentially as head coaches in the future and whatnot. But, yeah, that's pretty cool to see that. So, got a Gatorade deal down at Jackson State. Draymond Green has signed a first-of-its-kind deal to join Inside the NBA on TNT. The thing that makes it first of its kind is he's still playing. He's still an active player. Now, he's made guest spots and whatnot, but he's actually signed a full-blown deal with Turner Sports.
He will be a star.
He already kind of is in a way, and they're already talking about him basically. This is just further grooming him for the Charles Barkley role, ultimately.
He's a true serum guy. He's not afraid to sometimes go against the grains, remind you of Charles Barkley. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with everything he says. He's kind of I think he will be freaking unbelievable.
Yeah, so he signed a first-of-its-kind active player deal with Turner Sports. He will appear, of course, still on Inside the NBA, but he'll also be on some Bleacher Report shows as well. And it mentions in several of the articles talking about this, he's only 31 years old, so he could, in theory, continue playing for a while. But they are looking at him as kind of a successor perhaps, to Barkley. Barkley had said recently, I'm 58, I want to work till I'm 60, is what he said. But, I don't want to be working till the day I die. I want to enjoy all this damn hard work I put in. So Charles has, referenced that, hey, a couple more years down the road, I could be out of there. But Green started hosting back in 2020 with Bleacher Report. He had a show called Chips, an interview series, and he had the Draymond Green Show podcast that he launched with Cowherd's Volume Network. And he's been hosting another show on Interrupted where he plays dominoes called Throwing Bones and interviews celebrities. So he's been all over the place, and now first of his kind deal with Turner Sports. So
all right, that's good for him.
Yes.
I like him.
Monday Night Football, this is from a couple of days ago, but they are apparently pursuing Al Michaels. They are looking long and hard at trying to get him. ESPN has apparently not made a full-blown decision on the absolute pursuit of Al Michaels, but it's something that they're kicking around. He was on Monday Night Football, obviously, previously for a very long time. He's 77 years old and will be a free agent very soon, expected to be a free agent soon, and apparently has been negotiating with Amazon Prime to become their voice of Thursday Night Football for next season. So if he goes with Amazon, he'd still probably stay with NBC, but there is the option he could go ESPN.
When they signed Mike Tirico, it was just a matter of time.
And the other thing, signing Mike Tirico was smart in that he's 77. You don't know when Al's just going to go, that's it. And now it's not like his job is physically grueling. He's not throwing passes like Ben Roethlisberger and taking sacks. But eventually, you're 77. You want to hang it up. And he's still one of the greats. He still does a great game. But I think Tirico being there was a big thing. I think Drew Brees is also going to be groomed, but he needs probably a little bit more seasoning for Collinsworth's job.
Okay.
But we'll see. But I think Collinsworth will be there.
Collinsworth is a lightning rod. A lot of times they are. A lot of color analysts.
I just don't think Collinsworth and Michaels match very well to me.
Yeah, I have never felt that way.
Different strokes, different folks. Yeah. But Al Michaels will call the Super Bowl on February 13th. Good. So if he does and then he ends up moving on, that will be his last.
Wouldn't be a bad say goodbye after that.
Yeah, last broadcast on NBC. So we'll see where that goes. But ESPN, it doesn't appear, has decided to go all in just yet, but that's a possibility.
He did get traded for a cartoon rabbit.
That's true. Yeah. That is true. All right, let's see here. Congress, this will be great news for Smokey. Congress has set a roundtable on the Washington football team investigation. This will start up a day after they announce their new nickname. So get to celebrate that for less than 24 hours, and then Congress will host a roundtable to learn more about the workplace culture of the Washington football team.
I don't even trust him to get that right.
The House of Representatives Committee on Oversight and Reform will host a hybrid roundtable with former Washington employees to discuss the workplace and the NFL's failure to take steps to prevent sexual harassment and verbal abuse under the leadership of Dan Snyder. It will be held on Thursday, February 3rd on Capitol Hill. It can be watched via Zoom. And Washington has announced that on February 2nd, again, the day before, they will announce their new team name and logo, which I don't know how much stock to put into this, but I did see one Twitter post. So, again, just take that for what it's worth. It's a random Twitter post. I don't even remember where I saw it. But that Commanders could be the leading candidate for their nickname, which I don't know if I'm really on board with the Commanders, but we'll see what it ends up being. I just
want a name that no one else has. It's not that hard.
Commander sounds like a movie name.
Yeah,
you're gonna have the
Sentinels was a movie name, and that was a good take Keanu and the Replacements and make them the Washington Sentinels. I'd be all for that. Yeah, Sentinels is a cool name. I don't know about Commanders.
Yeah, Commanders just sounds like it's not even a movie name, like a cheap TV show name. Like it does. That's what it sounds like. But on the Congress thing, it's not even really an actual formal hearing. It's more of a fact-finding.
Roundtable.
You know what it is?
Yeah,
it's just to say they're having it.
Yeah, that's part of it, definitely. But I just thought it was worth mentioning because we've talked about like how that just sort of went away because Gruden became the focus, and then obviously Dan Snyder had.
But it's still gone away because if it was a real hearing that they wanted to hear something about, then Dan Snyder would be appearing.
Yeah,
and he's not gonna.
From Daniel collects admirals, and I would be okay
Admirals
with that.
I'd love
it. My dad is a Naval Academy graduate. Craig's grandfather. I'd love it. That would be because anyone else been called the admirals?
I think there was like a Euro League team maybe that was maybe that because that does sound familiar, but I couldn't. Definitely not an NFL team that I could think of. Let's see here. I think I got one more note, and that has to do with West Virginia. I do want to mention Jonathan Chachua named the Naismith Trophy Defensive Player of the Year watch list. I don't know if you had mentioned that earlier or not, but good for Jonathan Chachua. And then I saw this post on West Virginia basketball. It's not really off the radar, but just interesting. Bob Huggins' comments after their loss to Oklahoma. He was on the radio broadcast, and he was talking about how he had warned his team about the importance of that game. West Virginia is now 13-6 overall. They're 2-5 in the Big 12. And I just found it interesting just to hear Huggins talk. He said, I told our guys all week this was a crucial game for us. If you look at Joe Lunardi and all the people who are already talking about the NCAA tournament, we were a 10 seed coming into this. We're probably out of the tournament right now. Now, we're going to get back in. We're going to win enough games. We're going to get back in. But right now, we're out of the tournament. To me, that's very sobering. I don't know if it is time. I don't know if it is to some of them, and that's what I've got to find out. So, anyways, he talked about what a huge loss that was for them last night to Oklahoma and how they're out of the tournament now, but he promises to get them back in, and I just found that kind of interesting. He had more quotes, but I know we have to go. So, there's a few things that are off the radar.
All right, thank you, Craig. It's 5:12. We will have Paul Catalina's Top 5. He'll join us in about 40 minutes or so. Every Tuesday and Thursday off the radar at 4:45. Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jet motion they go with here with Baldwin. And Baldwin breaks free. And the Bears, Sikkim, Monterey Baldwin.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Justin R. is the XFL coming back. If not, they should call them the Washington Defenders or the DC Defenders. NFL Europe, and I think it's the Amsterdam Admirals.
Yeah, that's what sounded
Gary
familiar
Lewis.
to me.
Nicknames you say, try saying the Cleveland Guardians, what the hell. And no, it's
that's going to take some getting used to.
It is. And I will I just now have it. I guess I have been referring to them as the Washington football team quite a bit, and I find that no big deal.
Actually, I think that's of the names that they listed. I thought that was the best one.
You know, how you ever heard of names that when you first hear it, you're like, yeah, and then it kind of just, it kind of grows on you.
To me, I think the Washington is doing what you do if you like naming a kid. Like, why don't we name him, Aloysius? No. Well, how about Greg? Greg's fine, not Aloysius. So they're just throwing out a bunch of Aloysiuses, and so you're happy with Greg.
Ray Grange, the Milwaukee Admirals, by the way, a lower-level hockey team. Well, that will fit Washington just fine.
Oh, yeah. They're a lower-level NFL team.
Admirals is better than Commanders, though, by a long shot.
No, Commanders does sound like a cheap movie or something on it, like some kind of a show. Now, one of the topics we had earlier today was the college football conferences. Andy Staples, the athletic.com, thanks to Rod sharing the story about how it does appear there is some momentum. Yesterday we mentioned the Big Ten and the possibility of eliminating divisions. What are the goods and bad? What's the good and bad of the pros and cons with that? I'm not have a strong enough opinion on it one way or the other. But that seems to have picked up steam. And so the Big 12 is going to have 12 teams, maybe even 14 at one point. I don't understand how you cannot have, for example, and I know this is maybe not the right series, why Tennessee and LSU don't play like every third year instead of every ninth year. And I'm just using that one as an example.
Well, yeah, and look, the Big 12, knowing their mistakes, I hope the USFL is the same way. When it starts, it just learns the mistakes from last time. The Big 12, just in particular, should learn that, look, once you get rivalries, you keep those rivalries. You water the rivalries, you let them grow, and let everything else rotate, because they essentially killed the conference, or what the conference was supposed to be when they made their schedule. The first time around. So
Tennessee and LSU have not played in 4 years, and they have only played once since 2011.
See, and here's also another deal. And I know that there's some common rivalries, and people can say that, but you can get screwed on this if your crossover games get in the wrong cycle. And you end up, for example, in the AASEC West. And all of a sudden, one year, you have Georgia, you have Florida, who most of the time is better, and then somebody else in your crossover games. And then someone might get who? Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and whoever, South Carolina.
Well, I think you'd protect yourself from that happening. You're not going to give anybody the top two teams and make them play both of them.
Well, you don't know who the top two teams are.
No, you don't, but I think you have a pretty good idea that you're not going to give somebody Georgia, Florida, and then give somebody else Vandy and South Carolina. I think we feel pretty confident that, one is going to be much harder than the other no matter what year we're talking about. I'll take my odds on playing Vandy in South Carolina or Vandy in Kentucky. I know Kentucky's good right now. South Carolina's been up and down, but yeah, give me them over Georgia, Florida any day of the week, and I think I'll work out fine. I know what you're saying, though.
If you're an SEC fan on the chat room, let us know if you've seen some of that in your history of the SEC.
That is crazy, though, that they have not, Tennessee and LSU have only played one time, though, in the last 10 years. That's pretty nuts. That's what I don't want to see with the new Big 12 is UCF and Baylor don't play, once but every 10 years. That's stupid. Why would you do it that way? Yeah, I would not be in favor of that at all.
All right.
I just did see where Connolly's Kobe Black just got an offer from Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's blowing up. I would think that after there has been kind of a little bit of a quiet bubble of elite talent, high school level talent, not that there haven't been state championship players, but in the Central Texas area, which includes Waco and maybe go an hour each direction, that there are more high-level players in this class of 2023 and beyond than there has been maybe in the last 5 years combined.
Yeah, I'd say there probably is. I mean, with guys like Kobe Black, Micah Hudson down at Lake Belton now.
Trey Wisner.
Connolly's got 3 or 4 guys. Jamari Wiggins, and I'm probably missing one. And, yeah, there's a lot of talent. Go down to Temple.
Look at Marlin.
Marlin's got
Darian Gullett.
I never would ever think about them with D1 guys necessarily, just because they have not been very good up until the last year or two, really. But now they're a really good program, and yeah, they've got guys with D1 offers all over the place, Texas, USC, all those types of places, Darian Gullett. So yeah, it's between the small schools like Marlin having, just yesterday or 2 days ago, they had, Baylor swinging through, which is not abnormal, but one day they're posting, hey, Dave Aranda came through, and the next day it's, like Saban and Sark and all these other guys.
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley. So, yeah, from the smaller schools like Marlin going up to the bigger schools like Temple and then the new schools like Lake Belton, it's, I think, for the next couple of years, probably the best it's been, certainly since I've been here.
In the SEC conversation, and I agree, and we see what Shoemaker has with the young man Terrell, who's going to most likely, you would think, ends up at maybe Oregon. At least that's, although everybody's on top of him, but they have other players. In fact, Tizino, and it looks like even that, there was a time when Killeen, they had the Roy Millers and they had the elite players that were coming out of that area. But it's been a while, and it seems like there are more elite, I don't know if you want to call them top 300 or whatever the hell they're called, but you've seen a lot of good coaches coming through, not just to hey, by the way, and sometimes it might be because of who's next coming through the pipeline. Here's Daniel. The SEC has the one crossover game. A&M gets to play South Carolina, and they should do away with that. Justin, the SEC does a 6-1-1. 6 teams in your division, 1 permanent team, and another one that's a crossover game.
And that's that permanent game means that you can't have, and that interrupts the ability to play Tennessee LSU more than once every 10 years in some ways, because you got that. If you had 2 free games that were crossovers, you could get these bad boys knocked out and played everywhere, home and away, in 10 years rather than not playing each other at all for 10 years. But I understand that's the way they do it.
Yeah, the rivalry setup and all that kind of creates some issues. By the way, when did we start putting the chat room up on the screen?
Yesterday.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Except when all the bots hit us.
Well, we take care of those pretty quickly, though.
Yeah, you do. And then they're probably taking care of you because you're taking care of them. But that's cool.
Listen,
Armstrong,
I'm not afraid
very much. Is that Armstrong or Jack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Listen, Jack and I are not afraid of Putin. You hear me, Putin? Jack McKenzie's not afraid of you. Jack McKenzie, Putin.
Jack's
He's ready to
full
take
of
you
himself.
on.
His brother's in the all preseason, all Big 12 baseball team as well. Let's see. Are we playing 9 conference games, UC Fast? Of course, Central Florida will join the Big UCF will join the Big 12, and right now they do because there's 10. That will change.
Yeah,
but I don't know how many conference games they'll play.
Yeah, I mean that's what they're trying to figure out is how many to play. Do you play 8, play 9? How do you do it? I mean that's the conversation. That's where the division conversation comes into play, and that's where the SEC and the way they do it comes into play. So yeah, I mean like I've been saying, I'm looking forward to Baylor UCF, but they shouldn't have to wait 10 years to travel to Orlando, and UCF shouldn't have to wait 10 years to travel to Waco. There should not be gaps that long. I think that is very silly, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to play some of those rivalries more often than not. But hey, the SEC has a method to their madness, and it works very well for them. So who am I to say they should do it differently? But that's a long drought of playing teams.
To me, it does have, it lends to the fact you could get flipped 1 year where you end up playing the crossover game and your rivalry game, of course, is always. But you could kind of get screwed on that. The Big Ten. I remember early on, and I don't have the exact deal, but I remember when Nebraska joined the conference, not that it doesn't matter who they're playing because they can't beat anybody, but 1 year they had Ohio State, I believe Michigan, and maybe even Penn State as teams on their schedule. And they actually 1 year were able to win a couple of those games, but now that's not the case. Gary Lewis at Washington State, Wazoo's offering players from Marlin. Marlin has Darian Gullett, who could play anywhere. They just had a young man who signed with UT who was actually a transfer who didn't get to play because of an eligibility of where he lived. He was from Bremont. They have Lofton. They have a freshman, Tyron Bell, who's a phenomenal player. They have dudes. And what Ruben Torres has done, and that we've mentioned it before, what that administration's done, just to kind of make that place good and turn them around has been incredible. And imagine this, the University of Washington State is offering some of the guys from Marlin as well.
No, it says a lot. I mean, they don't come – I mean, I'm sure they come through here quite a bit because all these schools go everywhere for the most part. But, no, Marlin was not getting Notre Dame and Texas and all these schools all in the same, 3-week period. They were not coming down to Marlin like that at all, anytime in the last 10 years.
Even when they had that run in 2003, they lost to Atlanta. They had Jeremy Sanders. Where did he go?
So that was 05. I was here when that. I wasn't here. But yeah, Jeremy.
They lost to Atlanta in 03.
Yeah. No, they didn't. But then after that, when I came here, they had Jeremy Sanders, who was a very well sought after player for the most part, but he wound up coming to Baylor, and that was his best offer. That was before Baylor was good. So they were not people weren't knocking down the door to get to Marlin, even when they were fantastic.
From UC Fast as well in the divisions, of course, we could go at this forever as far as the way the Big 12 in the future will look, and we've looked at, I think, every scenario, but we appreciate the feedback you have. And then, of course, he said, let's do in the East, UCF, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Kansas State, Iowa State, and OU. That includes those two for now. And then in the West, you have Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, Houston, Brigham Young, and Oklahoma State.
Yeah, the only thing just off top is just the Oklahoma schools being split up would be kind of strange. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it.
That's a
There's,
unique look right there.
That is. I mean, that would be. I mean, because BYU's out there on an island by themselves, it kind of you're not going to have it perfect.
The closest team to them would be Iowa State, right?
To BYU
would be the Texas and Oklahoma schools.
Yeah, Texas Tech would probably be the closest to BYU.
Yeah, Texas Tech.
Yeah, because that's Alaska.
That's basically New Mexico.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think I think whatever they do with 14 should be pretty much close to what they'll do with 16. So it's not too much of a shift. Because if they go to 16, like whatever they do with 14 is what they should do. Whatever they do 12, so they just do it that way.
Well, that would make sense then. Just put the Oklahoma schools in separate brackets. I don't know how you're going to have to do something though, because there's 2 teams leaving. I guess you could put Texas in one and Oklahoma in the other, and then 2 replace them, and then 2 more split and go the other ones. That would be probably the simplest way to do it. But it would be weird to see Texas and Oklahoma in opposite divisions.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be you'd have to ensure for whatever year or 2 that they play. That they still play their game. Like that would have to be one of your crossover divisional games, without a doubt. So maybe you have to go the SEC route of like, hey, the thing is, they're not going to be around long enough for it to really be anything permanent. So,
2 years you're going to play the Oklahoma Texas game, and you're going to play Bedlam,
and then you're done.
And then you're done with it. So, I mean, I don't think that. I think they should use it as an experiment as to how you move around in a larger conference.
Okay, in order. Don't look, Paul.
Okay.
In order, which is further from Provo, Utah? Ames, Iowa, Lawrence, Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas, or Lubbock?
Ames, Iowa.
I would say Ames would be the furthest.
Provo to Ames is 1,117 miles.
Yeah. Okay.
Provo to Manhattan is 974 miles.
Yeah, Iowa's the furthest east, so it's going to be Iowa.
Provo to Lubbock is 872 miles. It's still a long.
It's weird because Lubbock is 872 miles from everywhere. It feels like sometimes.
And then Provo to Lawrence is 1,046.
No, but yeah, Lubbock with that location. I mean, they got to be in a division with BYU. I mean, they have to be. And then
it's just a short 872-mile trip.
But this beats the 1,100 to Ames. I mean, but they're kind of on an island by them. They're the Western West Virginia is what they are, and now at least West Virginia's got some neighbors around the block. They're not in like a farmland where there's nobody within 20 miles of them. They've at least got some people they can holler at if they need to. But yeah, BYU's kind of out there. And they're lonesome in the West.
How ironic would it be with the Big 12, of course, expansion coming in 2023, and if Texas and Oklahoma are still hanging around, how ironic would it be if the conference actually had 2 divisions and Oklahoma was split with either Texas and or Oklahoma State, but they made sure they kept playing?
I mean, it would be because they know, like, again, you gotta make your money where your money is. So look, bleed everything dry out of the.
I'm just talking about how the conference started, where they split up Texas, Nebraska, Oklahoma.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing: they don't have to listen to Texas anymore. Texas, they don't have to listen to them at all. Texas can pipe up and go, hey, we've got a good idea. And they'd be like, yeah, you're item 100 on this list, but we'll get to you. Because they don't have to listen to them. They're leaving. Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. And splitting up Nebraska and Oklahoma was probably a Texas thing because they wanted Oklahoma all to themselves. They wanted that, everybody else gets 2 big, Texas gets 2 big rivals. Everybody else just gets 1. Because they had A&M and Oklahoma as rivalry games, which were, they've got Oklahoma at 11 o'clock in the first week in October every year, which is an appointment television game. And then they had A&M day after Thanksgiving, which is appointment television for fans in the region all the time. Everybody else just got 1.
That's what's going to be interesting is A&M and Texas in this next deal. We don't even talk about that at all. But
I saw how some of the pods came out and they were separated from the pods.
If you do that, that is the dumbest.
If they do that, then they've already bent to the power.
Yeah,
they've already bent over.
If they don't play every year, which I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will be. If they're not, that is a travesty.
Don't think they haven't had some already prearranged things. Hey, how about this? I'm just curious. Provo to UCF, 2,319 miles.
Yes, so let's not put them in divisions together. Yeah. That's not going to be a fun basketball trip.
Every school in Texas or Florida wants Texas and Florida schools in their division for recruiting.
Not in Texas or Florida.
Every school not in Texas. So, yeah, absolutely. I agree. That's why I think when Mike Gundy and some of this discussion about the expansion and how they would put it up, Oklahoma State, I'm sure, because they're a huge part of it, is that Texas recruiting said, hey, we want to be in that South, or we want to be in whatever division that includes the Texas schools, or we surely want to continue to play some of them so we can be in Texas at least once or twice a year. Let's see here. I don't know. Texas should play Bama every year. You want them big name. They're going to start playing them next year. They get to host them in Austin.
Well, yeah, there's going to be some kind of teams they're going to have to play every year. I mean, the way however the SEC is going to do it. I mean, if they just, I guess Oklahoma, I don't know. Like, what are they going to do? Because they got to have, who are they going to move to the East? Or are they going to do pods like has been suggested? I don't know. But if they don't have Texas, Oklahoma every year, that's just the dumbest thing in the world. And they're not dumb enough to do that. That's too much money. It's too much money. It's the same thing as like the Big 12. Why would you try to sink Texas and Oklahoma now? Make the money that you can, squeeze it all out of them, every single drop, and then bid them adieu. And
then
it's
you
all
get
about
to keep
money.
a lot of that money. Yeah, here's what, if you know that there's already a Texas slither, a little power. They're in a different division than A&M. I'm not saying they're doing it to avoid A&M, but they'll be in a different division. They'll, of course, play Oklahoma in the same division. They will also have Alabama move to the East, and they will then not have to play them every year.
I think you're way overrating their power in this new conference.
I'm joking.
Yeah. Okay.
I am. I'm joking about that. I'm just saying if any of that happens, you can say they have a little sliver of a little bit of that prearrangement.
No, I think the most thing I'm looking forward to is the fact that they'll have no power. That they're walking into an egalitarian
You're underestimating
state.
them, man.
I know I'm not. I think that they'll try, but the SEC's been successful because when the big boys stand up and say we should get this and not that, then
you are underestimating.
Then Slive and now Sankey put them.
Maybe I'm not joking. Maybe I'm not. You are underestimating them.
I think they'll try, but again, they don't. They're going into a conference where no one gives a crap who they are.
And
really? Then why did they ask him to join them?
Because of the money. But they don't give a crap who they are. But they don't there's no one in the SEC that is intimidated and been bullied by Texas. It's not generational. It's not, it's like the kid from kindergarten through high school. The same kid gives him a wedgie his whole life until he graduates and moves out of town. There are teams all over this place that Texas has been giving wedgies and swirlies to. Well, none of those teams are in the SEC. So they don't have to listen to like the Lost Dodds.
Missouri's there, A&M's there. Yeah. Arkansas's there.
Okay, there's 3. That's a good point. But
Oklahoma's there. That's 4.
Okay.
I mean the team that's actually the better team coming in that people actually should maybe be worried about a little bit more.
But my point is that they don't have the super majority anymore. They can't walk around and say, "Hey, we did this."
No, they can't say, "Hey, you're tiny little Baylor" or "You're tiny little TCU" or whatever. No, they can't hang money over people's heads like they did. And I'm tired of talking about them because we're just giving them way too much time. But yeah, you're not going to be able to tell LSU like, "Hey, do you know who?" Like LSU's going to be like, "Are you kidding me? Are you really going to try to bow up to me, brother?" Like, we're on an even playing field here. I don't care how much more money you have. We got money too. I mean,
they were able to. I agree, and I understand what you guys are saying, but I'm telling you, they were able to have a conference that fell apart. They developed along with others, the Big 12, and got their way across the board.
And what did they get from that?
Against a team that was a power in Nebraska.
And what did they get from that?
Absolute mega power, huh?
What did they get from that? One national title?
Yeah, no, but they changed a lot of the rules and got Oklahoma, Missouri, and others to go, hey, we can all be pretty good and we can catch this giant behemoth, but we have to change a few rules. And they did. And I'm not saying that the rules that were changed were wrong, but even the scheduling, don't underestimate them behind the scenes is what I'm saying. That's my whole point. Do they have power like Florida's? Florida's like look in the mirror. But they're going to have, like you just said, they have 4 teams in that conference that they've already kind of been bullied.
But they have 4 teams that left and didn't have to put up with their BS for forever, and now can go like, well, no, you don't know. Like again, we were in a bad job and didn't realize how bad it was until you're out. The same thing with these other guys. You can move on,
and they did,
and they did.
Now guess who's back?
Yeah, but now Texas is crawling to the SEC. The SEC is not crawling to Texas.
And there's another team involved, for God's
Oklahoma,
sakes. Like, God almighty, like forget Texas. Like, Oklahoma's involved too. I mean, they're as much of an appeal as Texas is. There's not as much money, obviously, but as far as winning goes, they're just they're above Texas in every category.
I'm not
practically
even talking winning.
No, I know,
about,
but I know you're saying, like, I know we've been talking about it for a few minutes. Like, yeah, they're probably going to try to come in and throw their weight around, but Alabama's going to say, F you. You're not as big as us and as bad as us, and you haven't been around long enough to tell us what to do. A&M's not – I mean, I know A&M can be a pushover, has been a pushover in the past, but I don't think that they're just going to sit there and just let Texas walk over them in this new venture.
I'm not saying they're going to walk over anybody. What I'm saying is they will slide slide in, and they will get some things. Believe me, they've already thought about it.
Well, yeah, but Daddy DeLoss isn't there anymore. And that was, I think, the reason they did for so long. So I think it'll just be a lot different for them.
Yeah, they should have none. And they should have nothing other than, okay, you're going to bring in another 100, 300, 500, $1 billion. But other than that, as far as what we do in this conference, we do it as one. Vanderbilt has a vote that's as good as yours and your power as well. We'll see what happens. Mark Ramon with a bunch of Longhorns as the emojis. Appreciate that. Lem 30. Texas will have to get in line in the SEC. Paul, you're right. Craig, you're right. All right.
I get where you're coming from, but like, okay, they're going to try to do something and be sneaky or try to pull moves to like get a walk-on program canceled or something like they do in Nebraska. Okay. But if you were sitting here acting like, SEC, Texas is going to come and throw okay, they all know. They know what's up. They're not dumb. I mean, they're the best conference in football for a reason. It's not because of just one team having power or one team having control. I mean, it's pretty thorough across the board that they've had success with multiple programs. The last thing they're going to do is bring in a team that's going to sit there and crater any of that in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. I mean, it's a money move. It's what it is. It's a brand move, and it's probably it was a move to get this whole Super League thing off the table, and then because of the way it was announced and then the subsequent reaction from the Big 12 and everybody else across the country, I think it kind of poo-pooed that. And maybe that's still in the works. Maybe that's still ultimately the goal. I don't know. It's a great move for the SEC. It's a great move for OU and Texas in terms of money and a little bit more attention. They already get plenty of them, both of them. That was always one of the weird complaints I'd see was like, well, we don't get enough attention in the Big 12. And it's like, y'all are the top two teams. Like, bring the attention then. I mean,
you get better.
Yeah, exactly. Win a title. I mean, do your job.
If Oklahoma would have won a title, if Texas would have won another title, and I know they're going to go to the 2009 Alabama game and blah, blah. Okay, if either one of them would have won another national title since 2000 and 2005, it might have slowed a lot of this down because the conference would be looked at differently.
Yeah, it probably would have.
They were the shovel. And what they were doing is they weren't picking up enough of their own sand, but they wanted to blame it on everybody else. Bottom line, I just have a feeling. That's you guys can disagree with me all you want.
Well, I agree with you. They're going to try their damnedest to be what they were.
John Cortez. Yes. Okay, John, we're going to talk about this. I said yesterday, quit talking about Oklahoma and Texas. They're gone. Talk about Tech and Baylor. That's what we've done. If you've been watching quite a bit. But on occasion, they're still here.
They're not gone.
They're not gone. And they may not be gone until 2025. And I'm not going to act like they don't exist. You can if you want to as a fan, and I get that because you're frustrated. My point is they're still here. They are still a part of the conference, and the conference may not be completely gone or rid of them for yet another 2 or 3 years. And, oh, by the way, you know what? We cover the other teams probably more now than we ever have in the times that we've been doing a show together. Let's see. Dr. Tom retired. That's what killed Nebraska. Yeah, also whatever else. Frank Solis getting fired after 9 wins. Steve Peterson being an idiot. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care.
And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brad, what makes you different than anyone else, in your opinion, as far as what Boozer's does?
The fact that I own the jewelry store, anything I need to do, will do, or can do, I can do it. The buck stops with me, whereas a lot of places you have to go up the corporate command and corporate channel. Well, if you come in and want to make a deal, we sit there and we make the deal.
And you can find whatever someone's looking for, correct?
Anything is obtainable. I don't care what brand it is, what size it is, how much it costs, large or small. Anything is obtainable, and we can definitely get that in for you to see, look at, or buy.
Do you have the opportunity, if people have to pay things off, as far as a layaway program? What about what you have with financing?
Absolutely. We have 12-month no interest financing. We have layaway. If you want to pay with Bitcoin, I can take Bitcoin now. So if there's any way you want to pay for it, we can find a way out to make it work.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
5:46 is the time. Sikkim 365 Radio and also 365 Sports. Appreciate a lot of you, all of you, any of you who have been a part of the chat room as well. Red Wine 65, I'd like to see Eric Bieniemy and Caleb Williams go to UCLA. Keep Riley in check. Bieniemy is good at recruiting in Southern California. Of course, he's got a job to do right now with the Chiefs. Also, from John Cortez, just joined the conversation about 20 minutes ago. Did not look up the other text before I text. Still love the show. He was wanting us to completely stop talking about Texas and Oklahoma, and that's not going to happen. And also, beer cans and baddies. Florida State better hire Coach Prime while he's available. They are crazy if they don't. His recruiting is needed badly.
What do you think, Paul?
Let's see how they do. I think if you look at how they're recruiting right now, I mean, look, he took the recruit that they pretty much had in the bag in Travis Hunter. So Mike Norvell's getting into living rooms. He's getting into places, and he's recruiting guys. I don't know if Deion is – my concern with Deion is when he gets there, he's going to make it all about Deion. And I don't know that that's a good thing. So I'm not opposed to it if that's what's going to help Florida State win another title. But I'm just curious to see how Mike Norvell does with a real athletic director, which is something that FSU hasn't had in a long time. And, you know, the funds and things coming forward that are coming through now. We'll see how he does before we say like, oh, they got to hire Coach Prime. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not against it 100%, but
definitely be more exciting than Norvell. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He brings juice that Norvell doesn't really have. I mean, just from my uneducated vantage point on what it's like to be in Tallahassee right now, I can just tell you from afar, it's just like, okay, like whatever. I mean, I'm not really worried about him or them, but, when Bowden was there, it's like, oh, okay. So he didn't really have that factor. I mean, not that Dion would, but I would be probably a bit more worried as a competitor about, just Dion and giving them a new energy and belief and also, the recruiting ties as well. So that will be interesting to follow. I mean, like you say, let's see how Mike Norvell does this year. If he does well, then, there won't be any talk about that. But if he doesn't, then there will be a whole lot of talk about that. And then somebody is going to jump up and hire him. That's what's going to be interesting is like the steps that he's made for, even like his son getting the Gatorade deal and the Beats by Dre deal. Like, is that kid getting that if he's not Deion Sanders' son and he's not pretty good? I mean, he's got both factors going in his favor. I don't know, but I do know that, now he's landing the number one recruit in the country, and that kid's going to have NIL deals going crazy. And, if he really wants to make a difference, he sticks around there a long time. I mean, he could really make a difference, but, if he bolts after a couple years and just does the same thing all the recruits do, and he goes to the big school in the Power 5 and does that, then, that's probably going to kill some of it. So he's got the power in his hands, and I will be fascinated to see what all schools do approach him.
On the text line from Jose. Hey, guys, I'm from the 405, Oklahoma. Hey, guys, I wanted to know what you guys think about the new Oklahoma State defensive coordinator hire and Derek Mason.
It's great.
Auburn lost 4 games last year in which the defense held opponents to 21 points or less in regulation, including a quadruple overtime loss to Alabama that was 24-22, where they had Alabama tied up like they had eaten too much cheese.
They did better than I thought they would do, replacing Jim Knowles. I mean, I didn't have really Derek Mason in mind. I thought Gundy would find somebody pretty good, but I didn't think they'd be able to, make a splash necessarily, and I feel like they did.
I think they did
with
too.
Derek Mason. And obviously, the things at Auburn that we're hearing and seeing, whatever, even our guest earlier talking about just the fit of Brian Harsin there and how it might not be that great of a fit, just and not, him and Mason, or I guess Mason not being really a fit for there, or whatever the case may be. He got a good opportunity, bolted it to Stillwater, and he'll have a good group of players coming back. I know they have lost a few pieces on defense, like Jarek Bernard-Converse to LSU, but they've recruited pretty well, and I think it's about as good of a hire as you could have hoped for.
It's not just the players, although you have to have them. It's also the system or the culture of what you play, and Knowles was fantastic. Gundy, it's an article on CBS, has rarely ever made a big-name hire in his time in Stillwater, which has now been 2 decades. Knowles came to Oklahoma State from Duke. Previous defensive coordinator Glenn Spencer was promoted internally. Offensive coordinator Casey Dunn was a longtime internal hire. Former offensive coordinator Mike Yurchik came from Division II Shippensburg. So, it's a pretty big splash hire for Oklahoma State.
Well, and now he kind of has to, right? I mean, like he showed what he's doing, and it's not bad. Like I don't necessarily agree with always promoting from within. I think bringing guys in from the outside is good and get a fresh perspective. I think that's where I worry about Clemson coming up, is that, Dabo doesn't – the best thing he ever did was go outside the tree and bring in Venables. Then Venables left and Elliott left, and he just stayed inside the tree.
Yeah, but those guys, I agree. Fresh eyes and fresh ears and fresh. I agree. But when you have been as successful as them, that can help and hurt you. That can help you because those people have understood how you got there and have been a part of it, just not as coordinators.
Yeah, and part of it is maybe personal bias. When I watched Bobby Bowden not go outside the family tree when Mark Richt left, and that torpedoed his time remaining at Florida State.
All right, that's a great example. A great example on the other way is how Nebraska continued to promote from within all throughout years and years and years. And then when they stopped doing that, they fell apart because everything.
Yeah, it's not an absolute. It's not an absolute. I know, and of course, the not promoting from within, it came with Steve Peterson and all that.
When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 on this Thursday, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Payments for qualified buyers only at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details. It's New Year, New Ride time at Richard Carr. New Year pre-owned deals like a 2017 Dodge Challenger for $272 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $422 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $227 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal. Find your next car or truck at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 best things about Dan Quinn returning to the Cowboys, as he has decided to do as the defensive coordinator for at least one more year. Number 5, keeps him away from the Giants, who had interviewed him. And look, I don't think the Giants' job was really getting his beak wet all that much, so he decided not to take it. But it does keep him away from a division rival, which is always good.
Yeah, I don't think he probably had any interest in that job. I mean, I don't know how many people will have interest in that job. I mean, it's New York, so I'm sure there will be somebody. But then again, this is the same team's hiring Joe Judge and just the most vanilla ass head coaches of all time.
Ben McAdoo, who's coaching now at Carolina.
Yeah. Well, he's the offensive coordinator, but But
see, I think Dan Quinn. You don't want to have to deal with the media there, but they have to play a certain style to me. They can't be wide open. Go play defense, run the football, and that's what he would do on defense, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I really wouldn't even be worried about him in New York, but I mean, yeah, it does keep him away from rivals. Or it does keep him away from having to play him twice a year, and he obviously knows a lot about you, having spent the last year in Dallas. So, yeah.
Yeah. Number 4, his eye for free agents, which worked out pretty well this year. Keanu O'Neal, DeMonte KZ came with him. Jaron Kearse, all were big Dan Quinn, buy-ins on those, and all contributed greatly to the Cowboys, especially Jaron Kearse, who was fantastic this year.
Yeah, they did a great job in signing guys and guys who made an impact, and you just rattled off a bunch of them right there. Sometimes you hire these free agents and kind of just forget about them. They get lost in the shelf where they don't pan out. But, I'd definitely say they hit on more than they missed on, that's for sure.
I don't know what their percentage was. We don't have time to go through that, but it seemed like they hit on 75 to 80% because they have been – you can go 8 of 10 the other way.
And they usually – think about the year before when they brought in who's the guy that's been everywhere? It was with the Packers.
So good you forgot his name?
Yeah, well, he was with the Packers with the Washington. He played for Alabama.
Yeah, the defensive back, Landon Collins.
What? Yeah, Clinton Dix.
Oh, yeah, him too.
Clinton Dix didn't even make the team, so that's a good one. See, I forgot.
Why did you have to bring up the fact that he failed with the Redskins?
Well, he failed with everybody, except for the Packers for a little while. So, all right, number 3, his voice in the draft process. I don't know how much of Micah Parsons was kind of obvious when he fell to them where they were picking last year after they traded out of that spot after not getting the defensive backs they wanted. But also, look, Oso Odigizua was a rookie who contributed greatly this year. Chauncey Golston on special teams, he had that effect on them. And I'm just looking as a fan, thinking that, Dan Quinn probably has a bit of a keener eye than maybe Rod Marinelli did, who was a very good coach, but he was responsible for Taco Charlton and not TJ Watt.
Yeah, again, like the free agents, they've drafted well, and it's a very short sample size. Like, that's the thing, is we've gotten very short amount of time to really know for sure. But so far, it's been good, and always good to have, various voices that know what they're talking about. I don't think Will McClay can do it all by himself. So,
but boy, he has been the common denominator. And I'll tell you right now, they hit not only on the free agents, they hit, as you mentioned, Micah Parsons could be like a Hall of Fame. Well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but he's a Pro Bowl All-Pro the first year. Rookie of the Year defensively the first year. He's fantastic. It's a life-changing moment for a franchise.
Yeah, which brings us to number 2, Micah Parsons' development. So if you've got, the best defensive player or potentially best defensive player you've had in a long time, then, geez, let's go. Let's keep the same guy there for a little bit.
And it's Micah Parsons. That's S at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Look, Hayden's got short-timer syndrome. This is his second to last one.
Yeah.
So
he is such a good player. But, even in the San Francisco game, remember he went out, looked like it could be a concussion, came back, had 11 tackles in that game, and missed a series or two.
Yeah.
Can you imagine and I saw he played really well, even though he was not like all there, I think, mentally.
The defense didn't play well against the Eagles' backups for a long time when he wasn't in that game. So he changes the defense completely because he is that Swiss Army knife of what you can do with him and put him anywhere.
He's a personality that could be at any league, any team, but he's just it's almost like it's man-made and perfect for the Cowboys.
I know it's a different position, but his impact on the Cowboys defense in 1 year reminds me of how Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed affected the Steelers and Ravens so quickly, in that they're just so good at football. You can ask them to do anything, and they can
do it well.
And they can affect it on
It's like
defense.
You kept the debate. A lot of time, the debate in Dallas was, do you keep him at defensive line on the edge? But he was great at linebackers. Like, golly, he's so good, you don't know where you want to play him because he is so good.
Yeah. And number 1, continuity. The Cowboys have kind of rolled through some defensive coordinators lately, and having one for 2 years in a row would be nice. Just nice for continuity.
Yeah.
Smooth it out, and then you can continue to build it. And maybe, if he does leave as a head coach in the next year, you can keep it in-house, or you know what kind of defense you're running. It's the Dan Quinn defense, and you hire somebody who knows that kind of Seattle-based defense from the, back in the day.
I heard Mike Lombardi say in a podcast that Dan Quinn has changed that defense that they ran in Seattle because you can't run that defense really anymore in the NFL.
Well, you can't do it without the, all your defensive backs being 6'4" and running 4.3s.
And you have to have the line.
He had that. Yeah.
You have to have a bunch of them, and they sure did this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unexpected development for Dallas. And Micah Parsons, I think that'd probably be my most exciting part of this is just what Dan Quinn can do with him, your number 2 there. But, yeah, it's a big deal. Big deal to have him back. Kellen Moore's probably going to be back, too. I mean, I don't see any of these head coaching jobs hiring him just with his youth and inexperience still at this point. I don't know. But
the Vikings still kind of hangs out there for me.
Maybe somebody does. There's still 7 freaking jobs left open. So, I mean, somebody's got to take these jobs. But, I mean, getting Quinn back's bigger than getting Kellen Moore back, in my opinion, because
no question.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
No, and I think some of you fell for Kellen Moore. They tailed off at the end of the year. I just got blocked in our own chat room. Armstrong, did you do that after the bot got free? I need an explanation for that. Error, try again. I won't. All right, thank you to all of our great sponsors from day one, April the 6th of 2020. We appreciate you so much because without you, we're not here in this incredible studio and also, of course, on the air every day.
There was one thing I didn't mention for Baylor fans out there. Josh Fleeks, they posted some weight room stuff. They do that during the offseason, and they posted like the top performers of offseason workouts for like, I guess, today or whatever, because they update it pretty frequently. And in the running back group, they had Josh Fleeks listed as the top performer. So very interesting. He's got another year left if he wants it. And I actually wrote in my article the other day, like, I'm curious to what he does because he barely did anything this year. I mean, and I wondered for a time, like, was he hurt? He was there, and he's a guy, quite frankly, I thought was probably going to transfer just because, again, look at his year this past season, but he's working out at running back, was a receiver, dabbled with running back, I think, a couple times, but that's an interesting development to keep an eye on as we get into spring football.
That could maybe be kind of an
192 on the site. That's a pretty good size for a running back. Add another 5 or 6 pounds to him. He's kind of been hit and miss. You're right. At times you could flash something, and at times you don't know where he is for 2 or 3
He's super athletic, though. I mean, there's no denying his athleticism.
He can catch it out of the backfield as well.
They could definitely do more with him, and he could definitely do more as well. So I'm very curious to track that, and I'm sure there's a lot of discussion about that already over on the premium board.
For Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims, despite blocking me on my name on the chat room, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Emery joins us from Oklahoma City. He's here for day one. Not sure if he's want to come back for day 2, but we'll figure that out. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family.